Oh my goodness. Thank you. My name is Nadia Sampson. I am a senior research assistant here at the University of Oregon. I am on the PBIS applications training team. I've been on the training team for, oh my gosh, 24 years, off and on for 24 years. I've worked here for 29 years. I will be doing most of the talking today. Danielle will introduce herself, but she has had bronchitis, so her voice is a little funky, not too bad, but it's a little funky. So she will mostly be backup today.
Yep.
So
Hi guys,
want...
I'm Danielle Triplett. I'm also a member of the PBIS apps training team, and I have been at the University of Oregon for 10 years this summer, so big anniversary for me. Yeah, and I'm happy to be here. I will be backup for Nad. So especially if you have to like log in or log out, you're having tech issues, you can message me directly or put it in the group chat. I'll be keeping an eye on that. I'll drop links in there. I'll help Nad remember to let us take a break when we're kind of getting a little tired. So as always, though, take care of yourselves. You eat, take breaks, whatever you need to. And I know a lot of you might be in schools and the walkie-talkie goes off or there's a fire drill or whatever. So we get it. So.
And we are recording. Danielle started the recorder. So if you need to step out for a longer amount of time or anything, I will be sending out the link to the recording. So you can catch up or rewatch the amazing footage of the training as needed. Okay. We are missing, let's see, quite a few. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Well, that's okay. Let's get started. Thanks, Danielle. So before we get started on the training real quickly, Danielle does this super cool thing called PBIS Apps Community. Danielle, do you want to just kind of introduce what this is? The next one's on May 16th, and it's on social, emotional, behavioral health. Go ahead.
Oh, good. And I was testing the QR code because I did a presentation with Kent at Northwest and it had the wrong QR code. It didn't work. So
Oh,
this one
okay.
works. So good job, Nad. Yes, this is a community of practice. It is first off free, so great price. It's open to everyone. This will be our last one of this school year, and it's next Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Every month we explore different topics, but we kind of step away as being the experts. We set up with a little content, but we really facilitate a discussion among practitioners like yourselves out in the schools and districts. I'd say it's especially valuable for people that are in a kind of coaching role or maybe a team lead, those kinds of things, but it can also be applicable and useful to anyone, an educator in a classroom, all the way up to like a superintendent, let's say, who's like learning about this. So everyone's welcome. Click there, join us if you can, bring a friend, and then we'll be starting up again in the new school year. So stay tuned.
Yay.
Yay.
Thanks,
Thanks for
Danielle.
having that in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so here is our training roadmap. I hope I have a slide in here that where you all get to introduce yourselves. So if I don't, just holler. Do a quick course overview, pre-training activities. Hopefully you all completed those pre-training activities. They're not graded. I'm not going to check. If you didn't have an opportunity to do that, it might feel like we're going a little bit fast. So just you'll be able to go back and do those anytime you want. But if there may be times where you're like, I don't know what she's talking about, and it might be because there was some pre-training stuff that addressed it more in depth. We'll do account setup tools, data entry, person management, check in, check out SWIS reports, database decision making, little bit on readiness and licensing and training and setting up check in, check out SWIS users. Okay, let's see. Oh, can you see my screen? Okay, Jay is not able to see my screen. So yeah, I'm not sure what's going on.
Nat, I see your slide on the roadmap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you should be seeing a roadmap slide, Jay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Leave and rejoin.
Good idea.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Restart.
We have IT specialists all over here, and the first thing they do and say, "Did you reboot? Did you reboot?" Did you just try to log in again? It's like, wow, I want that job. I
Well, you have it. You just did it, man,
I
actually.
know, I know. Okay. Um, also just wanted to mention, we've got some electronic materials. There is this really cool thing called Teach by Design that has some really cool articles in it on PBIS apps. Something you might also want to check out. We will be going into application demos as well as the demo account and the facilitator training account. And you all should have a facilitator training account, which reminds me, I want to ask a quick question in a sec, but your facilitator training account is facilitator is your username and your password is first name, last name. I may have forgotten to ask Deirdre to set some of you up. So I'm going to ask Danielle to maybe shoot out. How many of you are already SWIS facilitators? Can you somehow indicate in the chat if you're already been
Maybe
certified
just
in?
say yes or no in the chat. That would be
Yeah,
helpful.
yeah.
Yes, you are, or no, you're not a facilitator. Perfect. Thanks. Thanks. Cool.
Okay, so for
Jay's back.
anyone that's not, so
Mhm.
Laura, Jay, Colleen, and Robbie, can you send, can you get to Arlo, Danielle?
Yeah, actually, I think I still have it pulled up from earlier, which
Okay,
I'm
if
trying to
you
get
can
to.
go to Arlo and ask, just ask Deirdre to set
Yeah.
folks up, because I neglected to do that. I
Okay.
have been out, Danielle and I have been going back and forth between now.
Gotcha.
We've had some family stuff, and so that was just not on the top of my brain. I forgot to do that. So Danielle's going to get that all
I'm
set up.
on it. On it, boss.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
I forgot to ask you to set up the facility training account. Danielle's sending you the name.
Tell her I'm just going to Slack them to her. You guys are seeing all the behind the scenes between our office. We're normally more on it. We both have had pretty big things with family members and taken significant amounts of personal leave. And then I've been sick. And so we're just not coordinated. And now you're muted, Nad.
It's just been a lot.
It's been a lot. I know everyone has that too. Hang
Okay.
in there with us, folks. All right, let me write to you.
Okay. Anything after doing the pre-training module that you're wondering about, the intervention, I would expect you to have questions if you've never looked at Check and Check Out Swiss. I would expect you to have questions about Check and Check Out Swiss. So I'm not sure exactly why we have that on that side, but anything that you want me to be sure and address, you can plop that. You can put that in the chat or go ahead and just say it out loud. We're a really small group. We may have more people joining. Let's see. We will see. But just let me know. And Danielle will be looking at the chat. Lots of resources on pbisapps.org. We'll take a look at some of those in just a bit. You also should have received in the email that I sent you, the one that came directly from me, you should have received links to the materials. The materials might look a little bit different. The PowerPoint might look a little bit different because we're always trying to update and do things, but all the materials should be there. And if you're having trouble with that, let us know and we'll make sure you can get access to that. Okay, I don't have an introduce you slide. So if you all would just quickly introduce yourselves, your experience, what your job is, where you're from, and what is your experience with any of the PBIS applications? So Colleen, do you want to start?
Sure. So I'm Colleen Coyne. I'm from Gardner Public Schools in Gardner, Massachusetts, and I'm the social emotional learning coach for the district, but I work primarily at the elementary level in the elementary school. As part of that role, I kind of oversee our PBIS teams. So I oversee our PBIS Tier 1 and our Tier 2, and I'm the check and check out coordinator.
Great.
I think we're trying to like robust our system, make sure that we're doing it with fidelity, making sure that we are utilizing all of the reports that Swiss Apps has to offer. So as part of my coaching in my role, the person who provides me with coaching recommended I do this, which I didn't even know was a thing.
Great.
So glad to be
Awesome.
here. Thank you.
Glad you're here. Becca? Thank you, Colleen.
Hi, I'm Becca Byer. I'm from Blast IU 17 out of Williamsport, Pennsylvania. I'm an educational consultant and a local PBIS facilitator for the schools in our IU. I'm also a SWIS facilitator for the schools in our IU. So I support all of them with their SWIS issues. So I need to be able to help them with their check-in, check-out issues. I also
Great.
support some of our center-based programs that use check-in, check-out. And I'm there twice a month or so. So hoping
Great.
to be able to answer the questions instead of just saying, I'll get back to you.
Got it. Got it. Great. Great. And is it Robbie or Roby? And if you are in a place where you can't
Nope, I
turn
am.
your- Oh, there you are.
Sorry, it's Robbie.
Robbie.
I'm Robbie Scruggs. I am the guidance counselor at Gardner, Massachusetts, at the alternative high school, and I am also the PBIS family engagement coach. I guess it's a add-on position. And I'm sorry, what was the other question? What have we done? We're trying to get our PBIS stuff going in a better,
Mhm.
in a better direction. We've been working on it for a while. We just went into tier 2 this year, so we have just started doing check-in, check-out. So.
Okay. Great. Great. Thank you. Mary, it's okay to type in. Oh, there you go. Hi, Mary.
Hi,
Thanks,
I'm
Robbie.
Mary Piskey. I am the data and information specialist with the North Boone School District, which is located in Poplar Grove, Illinois. I just literally right before the meeting got my SWIS facilitator certificate. It's becoming
Great.
certified in that. We are going to take on the SWIS system for the new school year. And we're
Fabulous.
going to implement SWIS moving into the check-in, check-out. So we're just trying to get all the training so we can train everybody and have it ready to roll.
Awesome. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
Jay?
Hi, I'm Jay Briggs. I'm an assistant principal in an elementary school in Dundee, Michigan. Just kind of exploring SWIS. I haven't ever used it before, so we're thinking about just diving into it and possibly starting it next year if we feel like it'd be a good fit for our school.
Okay. So this training is check-in, check-out SWIS. We're not going to be talking about SWIS, the office discipline referral part
Okay.
of that,
Yeah,
just
we
so
have
you
a
know.
checkout system too, so we try to
Perfect.
tie it all in together.
Great.
Hopefully it'll
Great.
be beneficial for that as well.
Great. I just didn't want you to
Got
sit
it.
here and go, when's she going to talk about? So great.
Yeah,
Welcome.
no worries. Thanks.
Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura Sawyer. I work in the same district as Jay, and I'm the middle school assistant principal there. And I am just wondering, is there another training for that other piece that you're talking about? Because I think I was under the impression that this might be both pieces. And so the check-in, check-out is great, but I'm also wondering if I can get a training for the other one.
Yes, there is a training for the other one. Danielle can put in the chat the link to register for the next one. Do we have another one scheduled yet? We have those monthly.
Yes, we do. See what the date is.
Okay. So Danielle will get that in there if we can find it.
Yep.
Okay,
Next one
thank
is,
you.
yeah, I'll put it in here.
Thanks.
Oh, great. Okay, great. All right. Thanks, everybody. And here we go. All right. So the first thing we're going to talk about is how to set up your account and do some data entry and look a little bit at person management. There are so many videos available on some of kind of the more straightforward stuff. So I may go pretty quickly. This used to be a 2-day training, so I'm still practicing getting it into the few hours that we have. If for some reason I'm unable to do that today, those office hours tomorrow, I'll probably continue with where I left off. And if you can't make it tomorrow, because that's totally optional, you'll be able to watch the recording of that. So no worries. You don't have to come tomorrow, even if I haven't quite finished. So no worries. All right. So account setup tools, data entry, and person management. As I said, there's lots of resources available. So I've given you these links. for these different topics. So I'm really going to kind of speed through some of these because it's pretty straightforward. Okay, and I think we went over a significant amount of this in the pre-training modules as well. Okay. So I want you to be able to navigate check-in, check-out SWIS as an admin, data entry, and as a data analyst user. Manage school and account settings, be able to use person management, enroll students in the check-in, it should say check-in, check-out SWIS. They may already be enrolled in the check-in, check-out intervention, but enroll them in check-in, check-out SWIS. Data entry, and then look at some reports for database decision making. Okay. All right. So there's different roles, which means people have different levels of access to the application. The admin users, which this does not mean it needs to be an administrator in your building, but it's somebody that is really the liaison, probably between you as the facilitator and the team. And so it's just, it's that person that has the next level of access next to you. Okay, you have the most access. So they're overseeing that account. They're looking at enrollment and school days. They're communicating across teams, across people, and they can also monitor data integrity and they can fix errors in data integrity. Okay. So this is just a kind of a picture of what the different people, the different roles are in check-in, check-out SWIS. If you've done SWIS, these will look familiar. This is the admin role. The admin can do pretty much everything. And that's why it looks like there's a dot missing, but it's because they can edit all the school settings. And this one is indicating that your data entry person can just do some of the school settings. So your data entry has a pretty heavy access level, a good level of access, just a little bit less than your admin user. And then your data analyst, critical role. And it looks like, well, they don't do much, but they're really the ones that are generating those reports and those summaries for your teams prior to the meetings that you'll be having. They can also resolve data integrity errors, but they can't enter referrals. They can't really change referrals unless those referrals unless there are errors in your check-in, check-out data, they could resolve those errors. But they can't do any of the data entry or anything like that. They can't set up the account. Okay, so they have the least amount of access, but they have a really important role because they're going to be helping you generate those reports, or you're going to be helping them to generate those reports and analyze the data for the teams. So person management, we'll take a quick look at that. We'll look at account settings. So account settings are the account settings that when you log in with your username and password for your school, the account settings are your personal preferences. So if you want to see last names last and first names first, or first names last and last names first, you can set that up and it won't impact anybody else when they log in. It just impacts how you see the data and the information in the account. Okay, so it's personal. They're personal account settings. School settings are different. School settings are something that the admin level person and you as the facilitator or data coach has the ability to set up the school settings. Your data entry can get to the core settings, but only you and the admin level user can do the application settings. And if it's changed, it changes for everybody. So it's not typically, the school settings aren't something that you typically change throughout the year. It's oftentimes a team decision how we're going to set things up in the account, and you leave it that way generally for a while. Okay. So it's just important to remember school settings impact everybody. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a question, Danielle, or you got it? Okay. I just saw something in the chat. Okay. All right. Let's go to pbisapps.org. And my guess is Deirdre has set you up with your facilitator training accounts already. She's very quick. But if not, just follow along and I will be in my facilitator training account. Okay. But I will remind you of what that username and password is.
How will they know if they got that? Would they have gotten an email
When they
then?
log in.
Yeah.
So we're gonna look to see if you all can log in.
Okay.
Whoops.
Oh, and I'm Deirdre just put it in our Slack channel that she created those accounts for everybody. So
Yay! So you
Yep.
all should have
Love
them.
it.
And let me show you, if you were already a SWIS facilitator, you already had that account. So it's not going to change. But I'm going to pbisapps.org here. Everybody can see that, or can you not see my screen?
You
Nope.
can't see your
You
screen.
have to reshare. Reshare. Got it?
There you go.
Okay. So I'm on pbisapps.org, which is where you'll go to log in to any of the applications. But today, we're just going to go to demos. When you have live accounts, you will use the login button, but we're not doing that today. We're not going to go into a live account. We're going into demos and going to the SWIS suite. Hello. That's not where I wanted to go. Sorry. Danielle, you didn't stop me.
Sorry.
We're going into, sorry.
Check
If
out
we
Swift.
wanted to go into just the demo account, which is different than the facilitator training account, that's where we would click. We click the SWIS suite. But we're going into facilitator training account, which is a little bit different. So I'm going to go to facilitator training account, SWIS suite training. And your username, we all have the same username. The word is facilitator, no caps, and you should spell it right. Wow. Boy, being gone for 3 weeks really does set you back. Facilitator, and then your password is your first and last name, no caps, no spaces. So mine is Nadia Sampson. Okay. Hopefully I spelled that right. So Robbie's would be Robbie Scruggs. No caps, no spaces. So give that a try and let us know if you were able to get into your facilitator training account.
Yeah, give a give a thumbs up in the React or physically, like Colleen. Great, that works. If you got it. Okay,
Becca got hers.
Robbie's trying. I'm reading your facial.
Yay!
Robbie's in. Okay, how about Mary J and Laura?
I'm struggling with the password.
Should be Laura Sawyer, all one word, no caps, all lowercase.
Okay. But I'm still stuck on the demo site, like it's already.
Oh, because you want to be facilitator, not demo, right?
Yeah. So log out of the demo.
And Jay's in. Okay.
Log out from the demo, but then it takes me right back to the homepage. So then
That's
just
okay. Then
okay.
go back up to demos, click on the demos button, but instead of going to that top part on that page, go down to facilitator training account, SWIS suite.
SWIS suite. Okay. And then username facilitator, password, my name.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
You bet. Okay. I'm noticing that I don't have any data in here right now. You may not either. Usually we do. There's probably been we usually do have data in here. So what I'm going to tell you to do, if you don't see any data on your front page, I just clicked the little arrow next to Nadia Sampson's Facilitator School. You should see your name up there. That tells you that you're in your facilitator training account. And I want you to click refresh facilitator account. Did everyone see that? If you already have data in there, then you don't really need to do it, but I clearly don't. So this might just take a minute. So we're in this facilitator training account. The facilitator training account, what this account allows us to do is actually practice setting things up, and it saves changes that you make to the account. It's a fake account. It's not a real account, okay? It's actually an account where you will share the username and password with people that you train, okay? It's that non-confidential, all right? So it's just taking a minute. It takes a minute sometimes to refresh. But this is the place you can do things like showing people how to set up their check-in checkout point card in the application. This is the place where you can practice data entry because people would actually be able to see the data that they've entered. They could see that on the reports. The other account, the demo account has a bunch of data in it, but you can't save anything. You can just look at reports, basically, is what we use in the demo account. Okay. So let's see if this is just pretending that it's still refreshing. I'm going to click refresh up there. Let's see what happens.
And Mary and I are chatting. It's really a struggle for Mary. That link doesn't work either.
What link?
Well, I mean, I sent a link just to get to the facilitator account.
Did you try to log into her account yourself, Danielle?
Let's try that.
Try to do that.
Yeah.
Come on. It doesn't usually do this with my account. My account usually loads really quickly. Are you all spinning? You are? You're spinning. Okay. So.
I got a message that said an unexpected error occurred.
Okay. So these are fake accounts. Sometimes that happens. I'm just trying to see if now looks like it's generating.
Boy, and Jay's having some difficulties too. Shoot. Sorry.
Is it just spinning? Spinning? Okay, I'm going to log out entirely. And we may just end up using the demo account, but let me see if I can get in there. So I logged out completely. I'm going to go back to Swiss Suite training. This is frustrating.
Mary, I'm sorry, I hate to put you on the spot, but it's harder to do with the chat. So Mary, you're saying that you did log in before and it worked?
Yes, I logged in last week for the live training for Swiss, and then again earlier this week for the pre-training.
Okay. So yeah, I sent a thing to Deirdre to have her check, but it sounds like maybe there's some.
Can you send Deirdre a message just saying facilitator training accounts are not working at all?
Yeah.
Or just spinning, so she could get a message to the dev team?
Yep, I'm on it.
Okay, so pivot, because that's what we do. We're going to pivot. And I'm going to, I just want to see if I click on check in, check out Swiss. Nope. Oh, okay. I'm not spinning anymore. If you click on check in, check out, the tab check in, check out, what happens for you all? Do you see some data on the check in, check out tab in your facilitator training account, or is it still spinning? Anyone? Bueller? And you can unmute yourselves and just tell me. It's okay.
Mine is not spinning, but I don't have any data.
You don't have any data. Okay.
Nope.
Who is, I don't know who is talking.
No data. Okay.
No data. Okay.
Yeah, I'm stuck in the loading, so there's no options for me to hit anything.
Okay. And so you can't even log out. You can't even log, like there's no log out button.
Oh, it just changed.
Okay.
So it's loading check and check out data.
Okay.
I did finally get logged on, but it is loading.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Mary, I logged in and finally it worked when I logged in trying yours too. So
Okay.
So I'm in the check and check out facilitator. No, there's just no data. It's a blank screen. It has all the sections, but nothing in there.
Can you go ahead? I hate to say this, but can you go and try to refresh one more time, Colleen? Blessings heaped upon you. How's everybody else doing? Any data showing up? If not, let's give it one more shot of refreshing your facilitator account. And if it really starts spinning again, go ahead and log out and try to log back in. I'm not sure what's happening. These are fake accounts, but
Yeah.
this still shouldn't be happening.
And Deirdre behind the scenes has sent it to the dev team. I've let her know the issues that we're having. So she's
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and keep going.
yeah.
If you want to follow along in the facilitator training account, if you can't get into that, just go ahead and go to the regular demo account, which was you click on demos. And let's see, I don't want to get out of this. I'm a little scared. Just click on demos right here. Can you see that? And then go to SWIS Suite. Okay. All right. So this is the check-in, check-out SWIS dashboard. If your account is brand new, if your school has never had check-in, check-out SWIS in a live account, you wouldn't see any names here. And some of you aren't seeing any names here, but it's not because this is a live account. This is a fake account, so you should have some fake data in there. But if you're a brand new school, you wouldn't have any data in here. You wouldn't have students in here. You wouldn't be able to look at student success for the last several weeks or anything. Notice how this average percent of points is empty right now. If we were entering some data for these kiddos, we'd be able to look at each one of these students and we'd be able to see their average percent of points for the last 4 weeks. Okay, so it's just kind of a quick way to get a picture of your account, who's enrolled in check-in, check-out SWIS, what their goal is, and how they've been doing across the last 4 weeks. This is a different graph. It's called the school-wide graph. It's a funky graph. It's called the whisker graph. It used to be one of my least favorites, but we'll look at that when we go into the demo account because it has data, but it is kind of weird. Rob Horner, if you know who that is, one of the founders of PBIS, used to be my boss. And he would talk about this graph and I'd look at him like, I don't know what you're talking about. And if other people do, that's great, but I still don't get it. But I do now. All right, so I want to start by going to tools, okay? I'm clicking on the Tools tab. I'm going to Account Settings. And when I go to Account Settings, these are my personal account settings. Okay, so this is my name. There's my password, my username. Usually there'd be an email there, but again, it's a fake account. So this is just my profile. Okay, there's a place for notification assignments. Again, this is just fake, but this would be for SWIS. General, this is the place where I could actually make some changes. If I wanted, remember I said last names first or last names last, first names first. This is where I could make some changes. So I'm just going to say first, last, just change that and click save. Now I'm seeing first names first and last names last. I can change the graph size. You can't really change the language. We do have SWIS and check-in, check-out SWIS in some other countries. They have their server set up so they could actually do that. And then I don't know, I've never changed the graph sizes, but you can if you want. All right. So that's account settings. Just about what I want, how I want to see things in reports and data entry. School settings is the most important settings that you want to pay attention to. Okay, so school settings are where we can make changes that will impact the entire school or everyone that has access to the account. Okay, so this is the profile of the school. Notice that if the name changed of our school, I could request a name change, and it's a request because if you're changing the name of your school, is it really a brand new school? Or did it really just change the name? Because if you've changed locations, hallways, everything, we're going to want to probably start a new account, but we'll let you know. So you can request the change. Here, if the mailing address is changed, you can change that. The physical address. If when we set up your account, your school's account, have put in the wrong grade range, you can go ahead and change that. I'm going to say it goes to grade 9. I can click save. And then if phone numbers or fax numbers have changed, you can change those as well here. You just click anywhere in the bar and click save. Okay. Contact information, when you send us a license agreement, or if your school already has an account and a license agreement comes in, you're going to tell us who the administrator is, who the billing contact is, who's paying for the account. And then your name, the facilitator, would actually be there for the schools that you're assigned, that you tell us you are going to be the facilitator for. Okay. But you can change these anytime. You can add the billing contact. You could add the paying institution. You have to request that, but we would facilitate that. Okay. The next part is school days. Now, if you've been through the the SWIS facilitator or data coach training, you know how important these numbers are. There are graphs that you just cannot get unless you have the number of days in here. Oftentimes, if your school already has SWIS, then the data entry person for SWIS has already done this, because things like school days and school settings really in general cross check in, check out SWIS, SWIS, and iSWIS. So these things impact not only the check in, check out SWIS account, but the entire suite of applications that your schools are using. Okay. School enrollment, same thing. For us, school enrollment is, we do in Oregon, we do an October 1 census. So we put in how many students we have based on race and ethnicity, English learner, IEP enrollment. And so that all gets put in usually by your data entry person if you already have SWIS. Okay. Again, an important number when you're looking at graphs toward the end of the year, especially. So those are numbers you want to put in there. You don't typically change these numbers. Like if a student, let's say a student moves out or a family moves out, you don't really change these numbers throughout the year. You just, if there's a 10% more increase or decrease in a particular race or ethnicity or gender or IEP or English language, or you might want to change that. For example, we had Hyundai move into our community a long time ago. I used to think they were building cars that was computer chips. That was a fun lesson that my students taught me when I was a student teacher. We had a lot of Asian students coming in to a couple of the schools in the district, and we wanted to be sure that our numbers reflected that increase for that particular group of students so that our data would be accurate. Okay, but generally you don't change them. Okay. All right. General is, again, when does our school start? Do we start in September, August? What month do you start? You can change that. Are we going to use that 504 option? Do we want to be able to track students that are on 504s? Do we want to use race and ethnicity? I hope you say yes. When I first started working for SWIS or PBIS apps, we didn't have that as an option. We didn't have race and ethnicity graphs. So we weren't able to look at disproportionality at all. But now you can. Even in this climate, it's still important. English, I'm on a recording saying that. I hope I okay. Again, English language learners, IEPs. So these are all things that you can change as needed. Requiring staff and student district IDs. This is important because if you want to do any type of data integration, if you want the SWIS suite to talk to another application that you might be using with around office discipline referrals or check-in, check-out data or other things, you want to use those district IDs because those are the uniquely identifying characters that are needed for different applications to talk to each other. Okay. Person import, if you would rather not enter students and staff by hand, this is a feature that you can just upload your student and staff lists. And we have a whole section on the website about this. But if you want to be able to do that, there's actually a wizard within the application that will walk you through how to do this for the SWIS suite. Okay. The additional gender options, again, you could turn these off. There's going to be some schools right now that are going to feel freaked out about using this. And so it's okay to turn it off. The issue is if you start using it and then you turn it off, it's going to get really confused because you may have data in there and students in there that have gotten referrals or have been on check and check out, and it indicates that they have are non-binary or whatever, and now the application is going to be really confused. You're saying that those don't exist anymore, so you'd need to contact us. So if you decide to use those options, you need to leave it on for the most part, or contact us and we can try to walk you through how to problem solve that. Okay. All right. Questions? Hearing none. Check in, check out. All right, I skipped SWIS. We're not dealing with SWIS today. So check in, check out. This is a really important part of how we set up our point card for check in, check out. So if you're already doing check in, check out the intervention, you probably have a point card that you're using for your students. And you want to set up check in, check out SWIS so that you can look at that point card and very easily enter the data into check in, check out SWIS. Right? You want it to match up, okay? So are you going to collect check in, check out data on Saturdays? Residential treatment centers do that. Boarding schools might do that. So you can click yes if that's the case for you. Sundays, same thing. I wouldn't think, if students are at a dance or a football game on the weekend that you're going to want to be collecting check in, check out data, but hey, if you do, that's fine too. You can just put that as yes. The default student goal line. So we typically tell schools put 80%. You would like, on average, for all the students engaged in check in, check out to reach that average of 80%. They're earning 80% of their points on average. This is a line that shows up on some graphs. It's the school-wide goal. You can set individual student goals. So when you run individual check-in, check-out graphs for your students, you can see what their goal is. So if I were a student probably starting check-in, check-out, the team at my school would probably say, don't start her at 80%. She's gonna need some time to get to 80% average. So they might set my goal at 70 or 75%. Whereas Danielle, they might say, hey, we could actually start her at 90% or 85%. Okay. So that when we enroll students, we have the opportunity to give them a specific goal, and that goal can change over time. Okay. So here's the part where we need to be, oh, please don't do that. Okay. Yours might be empty. This is where we set up the point card. So it's under defined period groups and expectations. I wish they would put the word template here because to me, that's what this is. It's like a template. So you can only have one template running at a time. So I may have all of these different point cards set up, but as soon as I set up a new one, the other ones are no longer active. You cannot have more than one. So your point cards have to be standardized to a certain degree. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about readiness and licensing. Okay. So we're going to start a new template. We're going to start a brand new, we're a new school. We're just getting started with check in, check out SWIS. I have the standardized point card in front of me, and I'm going to click add. Okay. I'm going to say, because maybe we have some students that started check in, check out a week or so ago, I'm actually going to put that we started on the 28th of April because I may want to back enter some data. If that's not an issue for you, just have it start today. Okay. But I'm just going to, for the sake of being able to do a little practice data entry, I'm going to put the 28th. School expectations, you can have a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 5. So I can go to 5, or I can have 3, 4, or 5. That's basically it. And that's, you know, based on PBIS, implementation of PBIS, we always say 3 to 5 school-wide expectations. And that's what your check-in checkout card, because it's a tier 2 intervention, should be based on your school-wide expectations, because you're layering supports for students, right? Everybody gets tier 1. Everybody gets tier 1. Check-in, checkout is a tier 2 intervention, which allows some students to get a little more intensive support and a little more feedback regularly on their behavior. But it should be based on your school-wide expectations, 3 to 5 expectations. I'm going to say that my school has 3 expectations. I'm just going to leave it at 3. Okay. You can change yours if you want to. Okay. Now I want to add the periods. So let's say you're in elementary school, you're like, we don't have periods across the day. But you might have things like blocks, right? We may have everybody from 8:30 to 9:45 in a block of instruction, right? So you might label this block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4. If you're a middle or high school, you're probably going to put period 1, period 2, period 3, period 4, period 5. You can go up to 10. You can actually do more than 10. But if you have a student that needs feedback more than 10 times in one day, you know, like that, you might be looking at a student that needs more intensive supports, but you can go higher than 10. But generally, I say don't have more than 10 periods in a day. So I'm just going to start, I'm going to do period 1, and you can do yours however you want. So now I've got period 1 in here. These need to be somewhat generic. If you start putting in here reading, math, social studies, and everybody doesn't have the same schedule that's on check-in, checkout, it's going to get complicated for your data entry person. So make this generic. Block 1, block 2, block 3, great. You know, you could even put time frames in here. You could put 8:45 to 9:45 if you want to, if everybody will be collecting feedback at those points during the day. Okay. So I'm going to just do period 3, 4, 5. I'm just going to have 5 periods. Okay. You can have more, you can have less, whatever you want. I'm just going to stick with 5. And I'm going to click save. Oh my gosh, it's so slow. Okay. I believe that's saved. Your live accounts will not behave like this. Oh. Yes, it did tell me that it saved. So now I can see it. I started it on April 28th. I have 5 periods, 3 expectations, but I don't have any data in there yet. Okay. That's how I set up my point card template. Did you all set up a point card template? Yeah, I'm hoping people have been able to get into the facilitator training accounts. Nope. People are still having troubles. Seriously, that is so frustrating. Why?
I haven't heard
Why?
anything from Deirdre in our Slack channel, but she did
Okay.
the dev team now.
Okay.
Sorry, everyone. Thanks for being.
Yeah, really sorry. Fist of 5. 5 being, I can do this. I could go back to my school and set up a point card template. Fist being, I don't know what the heck you're talking about. Show me how to do that again. 5.
He says a 5. Becca says
5.
a 5. Colleen's
Becca
a 5.
says, okay.
I want to just add to that this is like something you just do generally one time, right? And then it's good. So if you have your point card and you're like, our expectations are safe, respectful, responsible. That's your 3. And then you'll figure out your times. But in general, once you do this, it's done for that building.
Okay.
Robbie.
So I'm just going to get out of here. I want to show you what this looks like for data entry now. So when I go to data entry, notice that I have 5 periods set up, oh, you didn't set yours up, but if I have 5 periods set up, okay, I went to data entry and I have 6 points possible for each period. I have 3 expectations. Each expectation is worth 2 points. 3 times 2 is 6. If I had 5 expectations, this would be 10 because 5 times 2 is 10. Okay? So that's how that works. Each expectations is a maximum of 2 points, and that's how much I can earn per expectations. Per expectation. So mine is at 6. Okay? All right. I'm going to go back into tools. We'll practice data entry in just a little bit. Quickly on person management. There's a link. There's videos on person management. So real quickly, I'm just going to show you what this looks like. So I went back to tools. I'm clicking on person management. And if you want to do this, if it's easier to get out of the facilitator training account and just look on the demo account to navigate, just go to the demo account instead. If you're just spinning on the facilitator training account, because I sure am. I'm going to get out of the facilitator training account too. I'm just going to log out of this account and go to the demo account so I can just show you this more easily. Hopefully the demo account's working more easily. So I'm back on the home page. I'm going to go to demos. I'm going to SWIS Suite. Or is everything just slow?
So frustrating.
Very frustrating. Would you let Deirdre know that everything is really slow as well? Like even the demo account, like things are just super slow.
Yeah.
This is not usual. Come on.
You're in the demo account now, right? And both are.
Yep. Yep.
Demo.
My name will not be
Okay,
on
yeah.
here because now I'm just in the regular demo account. The demo school should be up here, but why it's not coming up, I don't know. Oh, it's so frustrating. I'm going to try again.
Yeah, I just messaged her, so.
So I clicked demos. I'm in the SWIS Suite.
Oh, Becca's saying she's logging into the regular SWIS account and that seems to be down too. Oh, brother.
Oh, okay. We're going to take a quick break.
Agree.
Because
good idea.
We need to take a quick break because we need to ask the dev team when this is going to be back up and running. So give us 10 minutes. Yeah, come back at 5 after the hour and we'll hopefully be able to get this sorted out. Okay, otherwise I'm going to pivot and do screenshots. Okay, folks. So as I said, we are pivoting. Remember COVID, how we all became expert pivoters. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I am going to, from current slide, we're going to, just one second, I just need to swap.
Also, for those of you just like new to this, like this is very atypical. Nat is there. I'm remote. She's at the office in Eugene and she's like, oh my gosh, it's like triage over here. The dev
Code
team
red.
all like scrambling, like fixing this. So
because live accounts aren't working.
All of it's everybody. So
right.
Thanks for hanging in there with us. This is super unusual.
Right. So they are on code red. Everyone is working really hard and they're going to ping us, Danielle, when it's back up and running. But all the dev team has dropped everything else and is working on fixing it. Okay, So I'm going to go into something that we don't need to be in the accounts for, and then hopefully we can go back. If we can't go back today, I'll go back, and if we don't have time today, I'll do it in the morning, and we will be recording. So there we go. Did you see that pivot? Did you see it? Okay. Okay. So database decision making. So this is all about reports. And this is really the heart and soul of what we do, why we do what we do, right? We want to be able to look at data, look at our students' data, and see, are they making the progress that we would hope? We put these interventions into place. We're tracking this information. We don't just want to put it in, we want to get it back out. Okay. So I want you to understand what the data analyst does. How do you navigate the check in, check out dashboard to get to those 5 core reports? What is database decision making anyway? And how do we use check in, check out SWIS data to monitor and support students? And then how can we help teams, guide teams in database decision making? So decisions are more likely to be effective and efficient when they're based on data, right? I know when raising my daughter, and Danielle knows, she's 23 now. She was a nanny for Danielle's daughter. Um, when you're working with your own kids, if you have children, I know a lot of times I would have to stop. I would be saying something over and over and over again, and not really understanding why Sophie wasn't getting, or why she wasn't getting it, or why the same things kept happening. And if I even just took a step back for a minute and said, okay, what is happening before this behavior occurs? What's happening after this behavior occurs? What is the behavior? If I had been able to put that information into a system and get a graph, I probably would have more quickly begun to understand, why is Sophie doing these things? How am I contributing as the adult to Sophie behaving in this way? Okay. So we want to get as precise as we can, and we want to get some general agreement across a team that this is what our hypothesis, or this is what we believe the data is telling us is happening. Okay. So when we talk about PBIS data, or just data in generally, we're talking about generally 2 different kinds of data. Fidelity data, which is really about us as adults. Are we implementing, and in this case, check in, check out, the way that it was designed and the way we said we were going to do it? And not only the way it was designed, but that the research actually tells us this is what check in, check out is, and this is why it works. If we're not doing that, if we're not checking our fidelity, we are possibly, if we're not getting the outcomes we would hope, we might just say check in, check out doesn't work. It just doesn't work. This happened to me when I was working in high schools. I'm trying to do check in, check out in high schools, which we're still trying. We had people saying this just doesn't work. But if we went back and looked at the critical pieces of check in, check out the intervention, they weren't implementing those pieces of the intervention. The adults weren't doing what they needed to do to get to the outcomes, right? The goals that we have for our students, the improved outcomes, right? So these 2 really are really important. You need to look at both of them. Okay. And until you're implementing with a certain level of fidelity, your outcome data isn't really going to be reflective of how well the intervention works. Sometimes it's going to be more reflective, like, this isn't working. What are we doing? What are we doing that we need to do differently so that we will get to those outcomes? Okay. So did we implement the strategies, systems that we agreed, and is the plan resulting in progress towards the goals that we have for our students? So there are different graphs in check in, check out. Hold on, I just want to see something. Sorry. Nope, that's how I did it. Okay. Sometimes I hide a bunch of slides, and I was like, were there more slides that I should have unhidden? Okay. So school-wide and individual student reports analysis. So in check-in, check-out SWIS, there are 2 levels of reports. So we can do 2 different levels of analysis, okay? We can look at school-wide, we can look at whether or not, does it look like check-in, check-out is working? Like, do we have the majority of the students engaged in this intervention? Are they making progress? Okay, and there's a couple of graphs that we can look at to determine that. Then there are some individual student graphs, and there are 4 of those, no, 3 of those that we can look at to determine whether individual students are making the progress that we hope that they would. Okay, so everybody, doesn't matter if you're an admin, a data entry, or a data analyst, everybody that has access to the application has access to the SWIS reports. Okay, your data analyst is the person that's going to analyze those reports before the meeting, before the next tier 2 meeting, and provide a summary of the information. Okay, so they probably will do that every other week, but if you're a team that meets weekly, great. I would suggest, even if you're not meeting weekly, that somebody is looking at the data at least weekly, because here's the thing. If you have students that aren't being successful and nobody looks at that data in between meetings, you're going to have students that may be feeling pretty punished or unsuccessful because nobody has intervened and said, whoa, we need to tweak this, or what's going on? Let's talk to the student. Let's talk to the teachers. So it's really important that the data is being looked at regularly. You probably will also have like the persons that's checking students in and out and collecting that data at the end of the day. They're a great resource. They're probably not your data analysts. They might be, but they're also a great resource of saying to the data analyst or to the team, shooting some kind of message out to the team like, hey, out of the 5 students this week, only 2 have turned in their point cards consistently. Or it looks like so-and-so is having problems in 3rd period. Does anybody know what's happening? Who can check in with the teacher? Who can check in with the student? Okay. So you don't want things to just linger. You don't want things to start to go south and nobody's intervening more quickly, because that's really defeating, right? So that data analyst is going to do school-wide summary across all the students on check-in, check-out, and then they will run individual students reports. They can monitor data integrity, and then they can also be the person that everybody in the school knows we are about to have parent-teacher conferences, and I want to be able to share the check-in, check-out data, point card data with the parents of Danielle. So I can go to this data analyst and say, hey, can you run these reports for me? Okay, can you run the individual student reports for me? So the first 2 graphs, remember I said, are systems level graphs. It's the school-wide report, it's that funky whisker graph, and then the average daily points by student report. Those are our school-wide or system level graphs. And those are the ones we start with, school-wide average points. Then we start to drill down into our individual student reports. Okay, these are just for one student at a time. This is for all the students on check-in, check-out. And we start to drill down. Okay, we're narrowing down to the students who are or are not progressing, and what's the context for that. And that's what that data analyst is going to bring to the team and say, here's who's making progress, here's who is not making progress, and looking at the first 2 graphs, does it look like check-in, check-outs even working in our school? Do we have the majority of our students meeting their goals or no? And do we have a system level problem that we need to address before we even start diving in too deeply into individual student graphs? Does that make sense to you about how we would be looking at our data? Starting balcony level view, narrowing down to individuals. Okay, I'm seeing nods. I appreciate the nods. Okay, so there's our student level graphs. There's 3 of them. We're going to talk through these in a minute. So just real quickly, what we're trying to get to is precise, right? We're trying to get from primary statements like too many students on check-in, check-out aren't checking in on time and it's bottlenecking the breakfast line, increasing classroom tardiness. All of that could be true, but I don't know which students. What is too many students? I don't really know what that is. And do we have just one breakfast line? Do we have multiple breakfast lines? Do we have even different cafeterias for different students? What does this look like? I need to get more precise before I can really intervene. Okay. So I want to get more precise. Students aren't checking in. Yeah, that's a problem. Red flag, red flag. What's going on? Again, need to know more. Which students aren't checking in? Is it all their periods or just some of their periods? Okay. Oh, why doesn't that? No, my precise statements don't show up. Where are you, precise state? Oh, there's one. So can you still see my screen? Nope. I'm just going to show you a precise statement.
We can't see your screen though.
Yeah, there we go.
Good.
So this is what a more of a precise statement would look like right here. I know it's not in the slideshow thing, but this is the way for some reason it's coming up. I remember the slide has been tricky. This is what a precise statement might look like. In April, 10 check-in, check-out students, about 30% of the students on check-in, check-out did not consistently meet the school-wide goal of 80%. Students were participating regularly, and we checked in with staff, and they're reporting high levels of fidelity. But more information is needed about those 10 students. How are they doing across their day? They're not meeting their goal, but I need to know more. Which periods? I probably would even know for particular students, is it a particular subject area for some of these students, right? I may even, and this may not be for the team to discuss, but are all the students on check-in, check-out, do a lot of them have some of the exact same teachers? And there seems to be a problem possibly with fidelity of implementation with some of our instructors, okay? This definitely happens. One of the examples I have is working in a middle school, and student was walking into the classroom. This was a middle school, walking into the classroom, and teacher was at the door checking to see if people had the materials, and the kiddo was like, I forgot, I don't have a pencil today, or I don't have a pen. Give me your card. Zeros. Gave the kid zeros at the very beginning of the period. That is not implementing with fidelity. You just gave a kid a zero at the very beginning of the period. Why would they even try the rest of the period, right? And check in, check out is not meant to be just zeros and you stink, you're not doing it right. It's about giving constructive feedback to students, hopefully, which includes just give the kid a pencil, right? And move on from there. So that is that alone, that might be a teacher where I would tell students, you know what? You don't have to check in during second period. Just don't even worry about it. Like, just that's okay. If you're unable to get teachers, certain teachers to get on board with this, we have done this, especially with high school students, where we have said, you don't have to check in second period. It's okay. We got this, because it just was going to be punishing. And we didn't have the authority, or the administrator wasn't necessarily stepping in, or it was going to take some time. So we just did that. Okay. All right. Okay. You seeing my slides? Okay. Oh, see, it does show up just really fast. All right. So those first two reports, the check-in, check-out school-wide report and the average daily points by student report, those are the ones that are going to tell us overall how we're doing. How many students are in check-in, check-out? What's the average daily percent of points? And then our average daily points by student is going to give the average percent of points for each student. So it gets a little more focused because you actually can see how each student is doing, but you're just seeing that big picture for the student. You're not seeing it across the periods of the day, which is when you start running those individual student reports. Okay. And then how many days of data does each student have? This is a check-in, check-out data analyst report. See, these are not quite set up the way I would want them to be if I were doing this. But so the check-in, check-out data analyst report you have in your folder, in that, was it Dropbox that we gave you or Google folder? This document is in there because this is the form that we would encourage you to use, something like this, for your data analysts, right? Here's what they could use that as they're looking at that data before the meeting, they could start answering these questions. Okay, so the school-wide summary, if you're looking at the first two graphs, would be how many students, these are the questions I'd be answering. And you don't even have to put it in a paragraph. You could just put the answers to the questions, especially when they're first starting out. Okay. How many students participated across the month? Well, a lot of times we're going to see a fluctuation in the number of students. We might have had 10 on one day, 12 on another day, 3 on another day, and maybe up to 20 students. So I would say between 10 and 20 students participated across October in check-in, check-out. Okay, between 10 and 20 students. That's the low and the high. Is there an upward or downward trend, static trend in the mean? So there's a way for us to be able to see the mean on those graphs. What's the average for all the students on check-in, check-out? How are we doing? What's the number or percentage of students who have 15 or more days worth of data and are meeting the school-wide goal? And then what number of students have 10 or more days of data and are not meeting the school-wide goal? These are the students that we're definitely going to run individual reports for because there's a problem. These students up here who are meeting the school-wide goal, we may look and see, have they been on check-in, check-out? Do they have enough days of data where we're going to say, do we need to start fading supports? Have they been on check-in, check-out to enough time that we would feel comfortable maybe saying, hey, you don't need to check in fourth period anymore. You've been rocking fourth period, but let's keep checking in on periods 1, 2, 3, and 5, because it doesn't look like it's quite as easy for you, or it's not quite, you're not quite being as successful as we would have hoped in those periods, but we might start fading supports. And that data analyst is going to be the person that is going to help the team make good decisions about the students that we've identified from those first two graphs. Okay? So these are just decision rules that I have. Students who have 10 or more days of data and their average percentage points is below the school-wide goal, I would say go ahead and run the 3 individual reports. And I've looked at the first two graphs, the school-wide or system level graphs, and that's how I've chosen those students. Okay. Students who have 20 or more or 15 or more, you can make up your decision rules, and their average percentage point exceeds the school-wide goal. I might also run reports for the individual reports for them because, again, we might want to start fading supports. Students are not meant to be on check-in, check-out forever or formalized check-in, check-out forever. I think we all do check-in, check. I know that at in my office, we have a little breakfast place and I check in every day. People, especially right now, like Danielle and I have had some personal stuff. Like my father died at the beginning of April. Danielle's mom died the month before that. So we have had a lot going on. Being able to check in with people to start your day makes a huge difference. For students who are coming out maybe out of a household where breakfast isn't a known thing, we don't always have breakfast, or maybe there's significant issues between parents, or students are having trouble sleeping, anything like that. Those are things that might be impacting their lives. And maybe they've been really successful on check-in, check-out, the formal part, but we always want to have students be able to and have opportunities to have adults in our buildings that they can informally check in and check out with, right? We want folks, we used to do a project with I think it was high schools or middle schools, where we went around and we asked students, who's the one adult? Do you have one adult in the building, or maybe more, that you feel like you could go to if you needed some assistance? Like they would have your back and they would help you problem solve. And it was amazing at this one school that almost every single student said yes. Like that was unusual to me because as when I was in high school, I don't I don't think I had anyone. But so anyway, so informal check and check out is great. You don't just want to cut kids off. Okay. So then when we're looking at the individual student reports, there's a student count report, a student period report, and a student single period report. Instead of just kind of talking about these out there, I'm going to try to find my graphs. So my graphs on the in my PowerPoint, so I can talk you through them that way. I think it's more effective. But that data analyst report that I showed you a minute ago up here, there's a top part where you answer these questions, and then there's these bottom cells. And what you're doing there is you've chosen those students, in this case, Chris Black, and we've been able to determine, looking at our data, how many days of data did Chris have, what his goal is, how is he doing? He's averaging 76% of his points. His goal is 80%. He's not too far away. His progress or success, he's at or above 80% in periods 1, 2, 4, and 5. He met his goal 7 out of the last 10 days in period 6. This is the information I can get from my individual student reports. Barriers, challenges. There were some referrals. He had some office discipline referrals. So if your school's also using SWIS, you can actually see the office discipline referrals for a student, or you can see that they've had some on your check in, check out SWIS graphs, right? You can actually see if they've had referrals on those days. And there were some problems with the substitute teacher in period 3, okay? For this student, your data analyst may say, I think we need to tweak something, or we might just say, stay as is, right? Your data analyst does not have to come up with the solution of what we're going to do if we're going to do something differently. They just need to make a suggestion to the team, stay as is, let's start fading self-management, more intensive supports. They just need to be the one that says, here's what I think. But they don't have to come up with the solution. That's the team. The team comes up with the solution, okay? About how we're going to intervene. So here's another one. So here's the first 2 graphs, the school-wide graphs. I'm getting an overall picture, and then I'm looking at individual students and teasing out their data from where are they having success, where are they not having success, what's their average daily percent of points, what's their goal, okay? All right, here's the graphs. So I might have wanted to start with these, but here we go. So remember I said there's the system level or school-wide graphs, and then there's the individual student graphs. This is your very first individual your school-wide graph. And it shows up on the check-in, check-out SWIS dashboard. Remember I said from the beginning, I'm like, this is that weird graph that's a whisker graph. Okay, it's called a whisker graph. This shows us the system level patterns of daily check-in, check-out participation and progress, including the highest score and the lowest percent of points earned on any given day across all the students on check-in, check-out for a particular time period. So let's talk through this graph a little bit. Right here, this number at the very top is telling me that 7 students participated in check-in, check-out on this particular day. There was another day that toward the end of the month, we had up to 23 students participating. So when I look at this report, I would say the first questions I want to answer is how many students participated? We had between 6 and 23 students participating in check-in, check-out on any given day between September 1 and October 12th. Okay, and that's those numbers up there. The next one is right here at the top of the line. that is the highest score that any one or more students got for that particular day. So this is 85, 90. So somebody, maybe more than one student, got about 95% of their points for that day. Somebody or multiple somebodies, also somebody got 25% of their points on this day. So it's a long line. I actually like to see shorter lines if possible that are up a little higher, but that's what we had on this particular day. The average, the mean for those students, for these 7 students, was right here at about 65%. Okay. So one way that I like to look at this graph too is sometimes I like to just draw a line through the mean, because I want to know, is our mean pretty steady? Are we having a lot of variability? So we're having some good days, we're having some bad days. We've got students with really low points. I mean, this is like below 0, which isn't really possible. But we've got some students that are scoring not very well. They're not having a lot of success. And on some of those days, our mean is only at 60%, right? I'm a little concerned at this point about the check-in, check-out system. I'm a little bit concerned because it doesn't look like it's necessarily working for a lot of the students on check-in, check-out. It's working for some of them. I can't answer a bunch of questions right here, but I can at least get started in thinking about, is our system healthy? Okay. So high score, low score, mean number of students participating. These question marks means that no data was entered on those days. There were probably holidays that we should have put no school into data entry. Okay, and then those wouldn't show up as question marks. They'd show up as NS, no school. Okay. Questions. I know this is weird to do it this way. Doing the best I can, people.
You're doing.
So that's my. Go ahead.
I was just saying, you're doing great, Nad.
Thanks.
And there isn't.
So I have my own, our like check and check out school. So I'm looking at like our current graph for like what you're showing. So ours is like, so I do have some like long lines, and then I have like, but my average point systems are falling between the 80 and then 100% tile. So like overall on average, health of system would be great because we're like definitely above that goal. But I'd probably want to pull those individual students that then are those significant outliers, right?
Colleen, you get to teach the rest of this section. You nailed it, sister. You nailed it.
Right.
So here's
the other thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead.
So the other, maybe we'll get to this, but like, so like the fidelity of our system, right? Like I'm looking at those numbers across the top, and I'm seeing like 24, 26, 25, 24. So like it's very consistent. However, I know in my brain that actually I have probably 30 plus students participating, right? So like right off the bat, I know that I have kind of a fidelity of entry problem because I'm missing 30% of my
or
kids.
Students are absent on those days. So when you look at those individual student graphs, you'll be able to see, oh, we had a bunch of absences. That's why those days fluctuated. It wasn't that points weren't being entered, but you'll see, maybe it is students aren't turning in their cards, but it could be that students were absent, because you will record that in data entry, so you'll know. So Colleen did a great job of kind of summarizing her graph for her school. What she said was, though, I have more questions. I need to look at the students. I need to look at the individual students. I don't have any individual student names on this graph. I have to go to my next graph, my next school-wide graph, to see that. So, not going to do that right now. Here is my next graph. This is my average daily points by student report. So this is another school-wide graph. This is telling me for each student enrolled in check-in, check-out during this time frame, and usually I would say this should say October 12th too, because your graphs should have the same time frame. You'd want to put the dates in there so that you're comparing the same time frame to the same time frame to the same time frame. So But now I can see all my students. I can see this dark line right here is telling me that that's our average, that's our school-wide goal, which is 80%. Our school-wide goal is 80%. That's the dark line. There were 44 school days when students could earn points, right? So now I can start looking at individual students and making some decisions. Where do I want to dive in deeper and run some reports for these individual students? So here's how I do this. First, I'm looking at this number here is the number of days of data that each student has during this time frame. Okay, so Alec Lexington has 25 days out of 44 days possible, has 25 days worth of data. Okay, I can see that Alec's average percent of points during this time frame was just above, maybe it's like about 47%. There's actually a table that you can look at and you can get the exact number. It's on the same page. When you run this graph, you'll see the table. I think I have it in the slides. So, am I concerned about Alec? What do you think? 25 days worth of data, averaging less than 50% of their points. Is this a student I want to get some? Yeah. Alec is struggling, right? He's struggling. She's struggling. They're struggling. So what do I want? I want to dive in deeper. As the data analyst, I am taking that data analyst form and I am jotting down Alec Lexington because I'm going to run individual reports for them. Okay? Let's take a look at Josh May. Okay, Josh May. Josh has 5 days of data and it's averaging just over 60% of their points. Okay, I have quite a few students here. Here's what I would say about Josh. I'm concerned. 5 days and still just averaging, under just over 60%. I am concerned. I'm not, it's more of a yellow flag because I may know that Josh just started check in, check out, just started. It's not unusual for, God, it's hard to keep the line straight. It's not unusual for a student to start off slowly, right? Starting off a little bit slowly, but I also don't want this to necessarily continue. So I may have on my piece of paper, I may write down as the data analyst, Josh Kelly. It may not be the student that I run the rest of the reports for. It may, depending on how many students, but I'm probably going to have to prioritize here. But I may shoot an email out to the team lead, the tier 2 team lead, and say, hey, can somebody do a quick check-in with Josh and his teachers? He's just started check in, check out, but his average is pretty low. So we might want to check in now to see if there's some logistical issues, some fidelity issues, but I may not be able to do a deep dive across his day. Okay. So generally, remember I was saying those decision rules. I like to have 10 or more days worth of data before I'm probably going to run individual reports. It's just a way to kind of prioritize. 10 days, and they're not doing well, I am going to run those individual reports. 15 days or more, let's see. I have Jamie Grant has 20 days of data during this time frame. Oh, no, that's not who I want. God, I'm just having trouble. Russ Harden or Harden Russ, that's not what his name's supposed to be. He looks like he has 23 days worth of data and he's up above the school-wide goal. I may say I'm going to just quickly run the reports for Russ because I think we might want to start fading supports, or I'm at least going to bring him up in the meeting. It's like, it looks like Russ is doing really well, or I might shoot an email out depending on if I have a bunch of students really struggling. I'm going to focus on them and just maybe do more informal communication about the students that have less data or have a lot of data and are doing well. I'm going to make some decisions here. I have to prioritize. Okay. So here's where I'm choosing students whether I'm going to send out some more informal reports to my team lead, or am I going to drill down and run those individual student reports? Fist of 5 if this is making sense. Fist like, nope. 5 being, yeah, okay, this makes sense. 4 being, kinda. 3, okay. How are we doing in the chat, Danielle?
We saw a 5. I saw Colleen raise her hand with a 5.
I saw that. Okay. Okay.
We're going to move on, but if somebody doesn't speak up, we're good at pivoting.
So I'm going to keep going. So remember I said there's a table for this report, the average daily points by student report. What's really cool about this table is you can organize it by clicking on these headers. You can click, I want to see the data organized by the number of days of data. So I can see which students have more than 15 days, more than 10 days. I can organize my data that way, or I can look at average percent of daily points. Do I want to see the students who are really struggling up at the top of my table, or the students that are really doing well? So I can just take a look even more quickly than the graph, and I can say, I know which students I need to focus in on. And look at this, it actually tells you their distance from the school-wide goal. So again, I can see who's doing well and who's below that school-wide goal. So different ways I can make the table show up, but just another way, maybe an even easier way than the graph, to get an idea of which students I need to run individual reports for. Okay. All right. So now here's my first individual student graph. Remember, I actually talked, I don't know how his name got switched, but his name is Russ Harden. He's not a real student. But Russ, remember I said he's doing pretty well, right? Russ is doing pretty well. He's, for most days, he's way up here. He's doing well, but I may say, wow, I think he had 23 days worth of data or something. I may want to run the reports for him because maybe he needs to start fading. So let's talk about this first report real quick. Anytime I see green for a student, I know that they've met or exceeded their goal. His goal is 70%. See the dark line? We set an individual goal when we enrolled him, it's 70%. So he's doing really well. He exceeded our expectations. We might want to just start with raising his goal, but he's so far above his goal, we might just say, no, let's think about fading supports, but not quite yet because I need a little more information. This, anytime you see red, it means it's below his goal. Okay. When I have question marks, it may mean that I forgot to put that our data entry person forgot to say that he was absent on these days. It's possible. Or maybe he didn't turn in his card. It's just raising a yellow flag. Like we might need to, now, if I saw a whole bunch of question marks kind of sporadically through, I'd be like, what's going on? Why is he not turning in his card on some days? Or why is his data not being entered? I'd do a little bit of a deeper dive into that, just putting out some queries. Okay. The other thing I want to show you is this blue line. Remember I said if you're using SWIS, you can actually see the or how many office discipline referrals a student has, okay, for a particular day. Notice here, he doesn't have 20 office discipline referrals. The ODR count is on this axis. So he's got 1. Okay. And if I have SWIS, I could go in and actually look to see what was this for? What period was it in? I'd need to go into my SWIS part of the application, and I could see what was it for? What was the problem behavior? When did it happen? All those things. Okay. But it's just another piece of information for me. I don't see this here, but on this graph, if I saw little circles around any of these days, that means that someone put some kind of note in the data entry part. This little circle here tells me that there's a note I need to look at. And you can do that when you're in the system. I don't know if I have that note. When we get back in the system, I'll be able to show you what those notes look like. When someone enters a note about a student during data entry, There's a little tab when I look at this graph and I can click to see what the note is. What might be a note for a student might be something like, how about for this particular day, let's say there's a little circle around here. I would click on the notes tab and I would see that Russ had a really hard time today on the bus, started off the day rough, hadn't eaten breakfast. Or maybe that note would say, Russ is going to have substitute teachers all day. This might be a rough day. Or Russ said he doesn't really want to be here today. I shot out an email or some kind of message to all his teachers like, hey, he's already struggling, might want to pay a little more attention or do something, but giving people a heads up. It's giving us an alert that on that particular day, that the data entry person or the person who checked him in was saying, this might be a tough day. This might be a tough day. And I want to note that. So when I see a day like this, I have a context. I have a little bit of context. Maybe there was a setting event that kind of started this kiddo off on not a great start. So I'm not super surprised that he had a blip right here. Okay. Plan change is different. A plan change would be a purple line, and that's also entered in the data entry section of the application. A plan change is different. A plan change is something like, we notice that in third period, Russ sits in the back of the classroom. His points were really, his average percent of points was low in third period. We have put a plan change into place where we have moved Russ to the front of the room. Or let's say we have added math support to third period. We are doing something different. Or in this case, with Russ doing really well, we might put a plan change in there that says, we took a look and Russ, we're going to have Russ not check in during fourth period anymore because he's doing really well. So he doesn't need to get his points during that time frame or during fourth period. Or we may even say if he's old enough, we're going to let him score himself during fourth period, not advocating that you put what he has determined his points are into the system, but giving him an opportunity to self-reflect and say, this is what I think I got today. This is why. You'd have to make a decision about whether that information goes into the system or not, or is it just something that's part of the discussion? Okay. But a plan change would give us an indicator of, let's say the plan change was right here, that line went right here. What I'm hoping to see is that plan change, I'm going to see an increase in percent of points because that plan change, whatever we decided to do, was about helping him be more successful. Sometimes what you'll see is you put a plan change in and absolutely nothing happens and everything still not working. That plan change wasn't enough. Okay. All right. Next one. So that's our first individual student count report. Here's our next one. This is our individual student period report. I'm running these in order. I'm getting a little more narrowly focused. So here's Russ again. And now I'm looking at across the periods of his day, periods 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. How many days of data does he have? Right? 3, 13, 22, 23, 23, 23. Total possible were 30 days. And what's his average percent of points? Well, we're not super surprised because we could see from the previous graphs that he was doing pretty well. And yeah, he's doing very well. This line should not have changed. It should be back here down at 70% because we know his goal is 70%. So we could still see he's doing really well. Even in first period, he's doing really well. But, what I'm noticing is, why does he only have 3 days worth of data? I just want to take a peek at that. I might know that he gets here late every day. He's missing first period a lot. It may be a situation where it's on Russ and we need to work with Russ to get here for first period. It could be an issue with family not getting him there. I don't, it may be something we can work on, or it may be something that is going to be more challenging for us to work on because it has to do with maybe parents. Okay. It may be that we've told him, you don't have to check in first period. So during this time period, we may have said in the middle of this time frame, we may have said, oh, you don't have to check in during first period anymore. So we just have three days of data. I'm going to know all that. I'm going to know what the plan changes were. I'm going to know what the notes are. So I can't just look at this and be like, uh-oh, he's skipping first period all the time. I don't know that. Right? I don't know that. I might have to reach out as the data analyst and get more information, or I can look at those plan changes, those notes, and have a sense of what's happening. Am I concerned about first period or not for how little data he has? Okay. Next graph. Now I've decided I want to know more about one of these periods. Typically, I'm looking at a student, the lowest percent of points. So that might be, I would run an individual period report for first period. Okay. So what did I do? Well, I decided to do period 2 instead. So this graph only allows me to look at one period of data for this student. So I'm looking at period 2. Okay. Period 2, it looks to be that he's actually having some struggles in here. I would guess that there's, this is for different dates and stuff, but just pretend that it's all the same dates across the graphs. He is struggling a bit in second period. Okay. He's got some days when he was down here around 50%. And more than one day, it's like 50% 3 of the different days, whole bunch of question marks. Why are there no data right here for all these question marks? Is he missing second period? Did someone forget to put absent? Did someone forget to put no school? Whatever, but something's going on in second period where we're not getting consistent data. And we've had a number of periods where he's not doing really well. This is that office discipline referral. It does not mean it happened in second period. It just means he had an office discipline referral on this particular day. I still have to go into SWIS to find out which period it is. Okay. But something alerted me to the fact that I wanted to run a period 2 data because I want to know what's happening across his day. Now, what I would say is that I would have run this. Oh, I have an idea why I ran this for second period, because he only has 13 days worth of data. I probably could have run it for first period too. But what's going on that out of the 30 days possible, he's doing pretty well, but why do we have so few data points? Okay, so I probably would run the report for first and second period, and I'm wondering what's going on. Why do we have so few data points? And I might want to bring that to the team and say, something's going on. It doesn't look like we're getting data out of second period. Is this a student issue? Is this a teacher issue? Is it a student-teacher relationship issue? Not sure. Okay. All right. So I want to get to, nope, I'm going to go back up. I usually do this in the application, so it's not quite in the order that I would want. So what I'm doing, so Maria and Kayla are students like Russ, for example, that I've run these individual reports for. Okay, this is that data analyst report. I've run those first 2 graphs, the school-wide, and I've come up with a precise statement. Again, I don't have to come up with a precise statement. I could just answer those questions right here. And you have both versions of this template of how you answer, what questions you're answering in the top. You have a blank one that doesn't have those questions, but literally your data analyst could just start answering those questions for this top part. It's the overall check and check out report, the big picture, or school-wide. It might say school-wide instead of overall. Then I chose some students to run the individual reports for. I probably would have chosen more than this, but I chose Maria and Kayla. There's 25 days of data, 23 for Kayla. Goal was 80%, goal was 70%. Maria is only averaging 65% of her points. periods 1 through 4 have many days between 75 and 90%, but period 5 met the goal 3 days, absent 2 days, 5 days below goal, 40 to 50%. Period 6, science, met goal 2 days, absent 2 days, 5 days below the goal. So I'm getting more specific so I can talk to the team, or the team can, this summary can go to the team or to the person taking notes, and we can narrow down, where is Maria having the most problems? Where is she having success? Where is she not having success? Things to think about. If she's having a lot of success in periods 1 through 4, what's happening in periods 1 through 4 that we might be able to duplicate in periods 5 and 6? Or do I know that periods 5 and 6 are math and science is really hard for Maria? So I'm not surprised that those points are lower. But I may want to think about putting the team, when I bring this to the team, is saying we might need to put some supports in place. We may need to move Maria to the front of the classroom during periods 5 and 6. Okay. So I'm starting to get a picture of where Maria is struggling and where she's doing well. I bring this to the team and the team can start problem solving. Okay. And I'll show you kind of a thing. Kayla, same thing, goal 70%. She's getting 80% of her points. But consistently meeting her goal in the last 10 days in all periods except period 1. Kayla is consistently tardy. She is dropped off at the school consistently late. So period 1, she's not doing as well. Can we intervene? Or is this something that's a little bit beyond our control? How can we incentivize Maria to get Kayla to get there on time, or incentivize her parents to get her there on time, or whatever? Okay. Again, I'm not deciding as the data analyst what we're going to do. I'm just providing some information to the team, and I'm saying you might want to make some plan change modifications. This information can be handed to the person who's taking notes or the team lead, and this then gets summarized. This then can get transferred onto the meeting notes in a little bit of a different way. I'll show you some meeting note templates that we use so that the team can start making some decisions. Okay. And those decisions, or that problem solving, could include, and doesn't have to include each one of these steps to develop solutions to the problem, but is there a way we could just prevent the problem from happening? Do we need to define, teach, and monitor what we want a little more closely? Do we need to basically teach and provide more support a little more intensely during a particular period, or help a teacher do that? Are we recognizing the student for doing well? Right? Are we actually incentivizing them and acknowledging when they're doing well? Are we doing that enough? Is the classroom teacher doing that enough? Is there problem behavior or behavior being rewarded that we don't want to be rewarded? So most of my behavior, anyone would tell you this, is attention maintained. Shocker. Is there a way that the behavior that I'm displaying that is not acceptable or less desirable, is there a way we can make sure that it's not being reinforced, right? For some students, it's, I want out of math. I'm getting out of here. I don't like it. So I'm going to act out or act up, and I'm going to keep getting to escape, right? And so how are we not going to let that happen? What can we do to help the student be more successful in the classroom so escape isn't happening, right? But we've somehow made the environment better, safer, more successful for a student. So escape is not nearly as interesting. Or if they're really hard tasks, we might say, you know what, do these first 2 problems, and then you can actually take a break. Something like that, because then we're still giving them that escape, but it's for less time, it's more controlled, and it's more planned. All right. Consequences. Generally, the consequences are the same that you'd use for any students. What consequences do we have in place? And then always, how are we going to collect and use our data? Well, we're going to use check in, check out SWIS. Okay. You may not need to do each one of these for every student, for all the students. This is kind of a lot. You might just start with, I think it's just has to do with where he's sitting. So can we just move him to the front of the room? Or he's sitting next to his best friend. Can we just not have him sit? And you'd be amazed that, well, you might not be because you know this. Students will tell you, what's going on in third period, Danielle? And Danielle was like, well, I sit next to Nad and we have so much fun together. We just chat and chat and chat. You probably shouldn't have me sitting next to my best friend. Right? So prevention could be really quick. It might be teaching. It might be you just need to do a little prevention, do a little reteach. You don't have to do all of these necessarily. Okay. All right. Are we getting any pings that things are better yet? We are? Oh, happy day.
I texted you and I
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see it.
I didn't want to disrupt your flow, but it does look like we're good.
Okay.
And I tested it. I could tell it was better. So
okay.
You want to take a break and test it out and then come back?
Yes. So let's take a break until it's 2 after the hour. What do you think, Danielle? 12 after the hour?
10-minute break sounds great.
10-minute break.
Actually, now it's 3 after, so
13 after the break, after the hour. Let's come back and we're going to go in and do a little more practice. We're going to do some practice because we haven't had one.
It should be working, fingers crossed.
Take a break.
Take a break. See you in 10. Good job, Nad.
You're missing the peanut. You're missing the peanut M&Ms. Unfortunately,
there's Monday. Save some, put some on. Well,
there's plenty.
Okay.
I bought the big one for everybody, but it needs to not sit next to my desk.
Okay. Well, I'll be in that green chair behind you on Monday. I'll just hang out.
Okay. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and get started again. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go back just a little bit. And we're going to kind of go, we set up our accounts. Then we looked at reports, but let's go back now and talk about, well, how do we even get this data in there? What does data entry look like, right? How did all this information get into our accounts? So what I like to, it's okay, Robbie, it's going to be okay. Hang in there, sister. Okay, let's go.
About Robbie, that's fine.
I'm sorry. I was like, it's later in the day here than it is for you guys, right? So
yeah, yes,
we feel you. I feel like it should be Friday. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Okay, so I'm back on the homepage of pbisapps.org, and I'd like us to go ahead and click on demos again. But since we're going to be trying to practice a little data entry here, I do want to go into the facilitator training accounts. I have had some success now getting in. So I'm going to the SWIS Suite training tab. Oh, mine already came up. If yours didn't, you need to type in facilitator and then your first and last name, no capitals, no spaces. Okay, I'm hoping everybody can get in this time and you should see your name up here. Okay. So remember, I'm going to click on the check and checkout tab. We started in tools, and what we started doing was looking at these different pieces in tools that help us get our accounts set up so that we can actually enter data. All right. I think I was at person management, so I'm going to go to person management real quick, do a really quick flyover of person management. Okay. I was going to get really upset. This pillow's making me crazy. So here we are at person management. There are 3 tabs under person management. So person management is how we manage the students and staff and non-staff, their names, their records in here. You can do this through that, remember that wizard? There's a wizard you can use that says you enable person import in your in tools. Or you can enter students and staff one by one as needed. You don't have to have your entire staff or your entire student body in the account to make this work. You really don't. If you're just using check in, check out Swiss, you could just have your classroom teachers or whoever is giving student points, their names could be in here. And then the students that are on check in, check out. Okay. But you can just do it one by one or not. Person management, this is my student tab. These are all the students that are in person management for Swiss, check in, check out Swiss, and iSwiss. Person management crosses all the applications. If I put a student in in person management, I could give them, if we're using Swiss, I could give them an office discipline referral. I could give them their check in, check out points. And I could also, if they had an iSwiss file, I could enter data for them under iSwiss. It crosses all three applications. And the way that I would add a new student, if I weren't doing that import function, was just click add, put their first, last name, gender in there. If your school has chosen to use non-binary, transgender, other, then that's going to show up. If you chose in the school settings not to, that's not going to show up. It's just going to show up as male, female. Okay. I could put if we've chosen to use district IDs, I can put my student's district ID in number in there. I need to, if we've decided to use the ethnicity features, which I really hope you have, you would need to put their ethnicity and their race, and then are they an English language learner? Again, in preferences in account or school settings, I would have chosen whether or not we're tracking this. Does the student have a 504 plan? Does the student have an IEP? And what is, if I say yes, I'm going to need to choose their disability category. Okay. Make sense? Kinda. I can do the same thing with staff. There's a whole video on this, so I'm not going to spend. We live in the Willamette Valley and it's all about allergies. This is the staff tab. So again, if I needed to add a new staff, I could just click add and I'd put the new staff member. Notice how there aren't all the same fields in here, but I can put my staff person in here, click save. I'm going to let you watch the person management video to get more information, because it's not super complicated. Okay. Sometimes we put non-staff in here. This might be people like your bus drivers that might be giving office discipline referrals, or maybe students are collecting their check and checkout points on the bus. This is a place you could put bus drivers or someone that's not at the school but works and needs to have access to the account. Okay. The other part of tools, so that's person management. There's a data integrity report. The way you know if you have an data integrity error is up here. There's this little exclamation point right here, which means that there's something funky in the account. It means that maybe we have duplicate referrals for a student. Maybe we have the same student entered twice. So somebody didn't check and the student got entered more than one time in person management, and we would want to merge those students. You do that through person management. Okay. There aren't usually a lot of errors in check-in, check-out. It's much more likely that, see, like there's 2 errors here. Oh, interesting. What are they, I wonder? It might be I'm not sure what it is, but you can generally fix the errors right here. You can click on the error and you can fix the errors right here. Pretty much everybody has access, including your data analyst, to fix data integrity errors. Not going to do a whole lot with it right now. I'm going to go back to check in, check out. I'm going to go back to tools. There's that person import option. If you have chosen to import your student and staff, that's there. There's not going to go there. This is more to do with Swiss. I do want to show you one thing though here. This is user management. So user management is where I can invite people to have access to the account. Okay, so I can invite users. I could invite, now you're going back to your school, you're brand new with check in, check out Swiss, and I need to invite the data entry user. I need to invite the data analyst, things like that. So I go to user management real quickly. Where did I do that? I went to tools, I went to user management, and I just invite users. Now, in order to invite a user, they already need to be in person management. They need to be somewhere in the account in person management if I'm going to invite them to do something. So I can select the user. I'm going to say Carl Johnson. I want him to have data entry access in SWIS, or I could say, nope, I don't want him to have any access, and I could have just left it blank. I can't get it to blank right now, but that's okay. Check-in, check-out SWIS, I'm going to have them be the data analyst. iSWIS, just leave it blank. Okay, and click next. Now Carl Johnson will get an email and will be invited to be a user in the account at the level that I suggest put in there. Okay, that's how you get people access to the account. All right, your admin users can do this now. They didn't used to be able to do this, but your admin users. So when you define your check-in checkout admin user, you need to invite the check-in checkout admin user, but then that user can invite others. I don't think they can invite another check-in checkout admin. I think you have to do that, but you can, now the invitation went. This is just a demo, so it's not gonna show up, but those names would start showing up right here, what level of access, okay? I don't think I need to show you anything else there. All right, so remember that when we went into school settings initially, we went to check-in, check-out, and we defined those period groups and expectations. We set up the card. And mine started on April 28th with 5 periods and 3 expectations. You may have set yours up differently, or you may not have been able to set it up at all. Quick review, you just click add. You say how many expectations, when do I want to be able to start entering data? Maybe it's a week ago, maybe it's just starting today. I start labeling the periods in here, click save, and then my template is set up. My template is set up for 3 expectations, I think, and how many periods? Well, I can check by going to data entry. When I go to data entry, I did set it up for 5 periods, okay? And the way I know how many periods is right there. And I know that if I have 3 expectations and each expectation is worth 2 points, that means a total of 6. If I had 5 expectations, this number would be 10 because each expectation is worth 2. Okay, so your numbers will look different if you set your template up differently. I should mention as well, when you're setting up that template, if Danielle and I were in the same school, I may need to get feedback 7 or 8 times a day, whereas Danielle just needs to get it those 5 periods. If you have someone on check-in, check-out that needs more than those 5 check-in periods, you're going to set your template up for 8 periods because you have a student or maybe more than one student who needs feedback more than those 5 periods. You set it up for the student or students that needs the most feedback throughout the day. You just leave it blank for Danielle. You don't have to give Danielle points for all 8 of those periods, okay? You just leave them blank for her. So let's look at data entry real quickly. So Alan Cook, some of you may know him. He's our team lead. Alan is present. If he were absent, right here, I could just mark him as absent, but he's present today. So I'm just going to leave that there. Okay. In period 1, Alan did well. Period 2, did okay. Period 3, pretty well. Period 4, great. Period 5, super duper. No plan changes for him. Don't really have any note. He did really well. Everything looks good. I could click the little floppy disk here, or I can just go on to my next student. Okay. Andrew Rowland. Andrew Rowland was absent. And how I do that is I just put right here and I say absent. Now we don't enter any data, it just clicks to absent. Okay. Bill Thornton, God, some of these names. Oops, I went to Bill Thornton was present. He did arrive, but he was absent for period 1. So I just click on period 1 and I say absent. Period 2, maybe he had a dentist appointment. I don't know. And then he did well here. Everything's okie dokie smoky. Okay, I'm just gonna now go to Brian Bender, who's one of my favorite. Brian Bender has been in our system forever. He's a fake student, but we used to have mugs that said free Brian Bender because we all felt so bad that he was never gonna get out. Brian Bender was present, and he was present all the days, but he came in this morning really not wanting to be at school, having a hard time. And so our person that checked him in wrote a note, okay, and wrote a note and said, Brian didn't have breakfast, and said he got in an argument with mom. Okay. Setting event. Just kind of giving us a heads up of how is Brian coming in today? Is he can we pump him up a little bit so that maybe the day didn't start off very well, but we're going to help him regain strength. So gave him a granola bar because he didn't have breakfast. Right? Contacted teachers for a heads up. I don't know if you'd want to use heads up, but whatever. Okay. So now there's a note in there. Sure enough, he did have a little bit of a rocky start, but things improved throughout the day. He started doing better. By the end of the day, things looked pretty good. Okay. Now let's look at, where's our guy, Russ? Well, we'll just choose someone else. We will choose Fiona Triplet, which is Danielle's cat. Fiona, love Fifi Fiona, she's adorable. Fifi actually does well across her day. And so we've decided to kind of not have her check in all the periods, or it could be she doesn't have a first period. Like she just doesn't. If that's the case, if a student is not collecting points for a particular period, just leave it blank. Okay, just leave it blank. If you accidentally put in something like no data and you're like, no, that's not what I meant to do, because you just gave her a 0 for that period. And I'll tell you in a minute more. Just go back up and go right above absent, click right here and leave it blank. Okay, so Fiona's not going to check in first period. Second period, she is supposed to check in. She is supposed to gather points. But when she turned in her card today, there were no points. So that might be a place where I would put no data. Okay. That's giving the student a 0. That's giving them a 0 for that period. Okay. The only time I want to do that is if they were supposed to collect points and they didn't. We may decide as a school we're not going to use that. It just gets kind of complicated to figure out what happened there. The way that I see it being used most, I think, well, is if you have a student who's consistently not turning in their card for not turning in points for a particular period, or just not turning in their card at all, I might use no data, because what that does is alert us. We got a problem. We have kind of a fidelity issue with the students not collecting points, or do we have a fidelity issue with our teachers? But it's alerting us that we need to do a deeper dive. Okay, question, Robbie.
Sorry. Okay. This might be obvious, but okay. Is there the point cards are like paper that the students are carrying around, right? There's no way for like you can in Swiss, like where the teachers put in the referral.
Not yet.
Okay.
But Swiss, check in, check out Swiss Mobile. We are piloting it right now. We are working, we're piloting. I'm one of the piloters, pilot. I'm one of the pilots, because we're piloting that with some high schools. And we are hoping in the next year or two that we will have check in, check out Swiss Mobile, or, point entry only, and teachers would be able to enter that information. We just don't have it
Okay.
yet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so no data. We're just gonna leave that. She did great the rest of the day. She got all 6s, but she still doesn't have 100% because that no data gave her a 0. Okay, just keeping that in mind. When you give a student no data, it should be because they didn't collect points and they were supposed to. First period, she's not supposed to collect her points, so we left it blank. Thumbs up if that's making sense. When I might use no data versus, okay, great. All right. Okay, let's just go on to Joan Jett. I could be dating myself here. Saw her in concert at the Oregon Cham with Loverboy and Foreigner. That's how old I am. Joan Jett has been doing okay most periods, but third period seems to be having some issues. And so we decided from after today, we're going to put in a plan change. Okay, third period is math. And so we have we are providing a peer tutor support person for third period math for Joan. You don't even have to put for Joan in there, okay? Now I'm just documenting that we are doing something a little bit different. It could be we're moving her to the front of the room. We're moving her away from her best friend, whatever. But it's just alerting us so that when we look at the graphs, we'll see that plan change, okay? The other thing that I can see is if we forgot, and let's see, let's go back, that we forgot in March or in April, maybe our school had spring break and we had a holiday. Let's say I go to the April 14th was a holiday for some reason. I click on that, school was not in. Nobody had school. I'm just going to say no school. Okay, that makes it so that question marks aren't showing up on my graphs, just NS is showing up. So I know, oh, there was no school. You can't future enter that. So if let's say you know that spring break's coming up, I can't enter no school on those days until those days actually happen. Okay, so you probably have to just do it after you get back from spring break. You'd go back to those dates, and I can do that with the calendar and enter no school. Okay. Danielle, what did I forget on data entry? Okay.
Nothing's coming to mind.
All right. So
Anybody out there have questions?
Yeah, questions?
Things that when you're thinking of how your point card might work, will this fit? Will this meet your needs? You don't have to have those questions now. Also, we have a whole support team, including Deirdre, who's been our kind of behind the scenes person. And I'll put that contact info in the chat, but that will be a good resource for you.
Yes. Okay. So we started entering points, but let's say we didn't have any students enrolled. So first you need to know that under tools, you have to set up your point card before you can enroll students in check in, check out. You have to have this set up first. Okay. Then I can enroll students in check in, check out. If I try to do it before that, it's not going to work. So where do I enroll students in check in, check out? I go to my dashboard. All these students are already enrolled. There's that awful whisker graph. It's not that awful, right? It's not that bad. And I have a new student that I want to enroll. I'm going to click enroll. And I'm going to start to type in here to see if this student is already there. Oops. Kidders, checking. Nope. Kidders isn't in the system yet. This is my cat. I need to add her to person management. I don't have to go to person management to do that. I can just click this little plus right here and I can, and it takes you to person management basically. We're not going to give her we're going to give her my maiden name, Kidders Catul. She identifies as female, her district ID, I'm going to make it up. She is not Hispanic, but she is Black African American. She is not an English language learner. Yes, she has a 504 plan. You can't have a 504 plan and an IEP, so I don't know why you're allowed to do both, but you shouldn't be able to. No, she doesn't have an IEP. Okay, and I click save. Kidders is now in here. Now, what do I want Kidders' goal to be? Well, we're going to start Kidders off a little bit lower. We want her to have some success. We want her, to get some momentum. So we're going to lower her goal to 75% for now. I have some point cards back starting from Monday. So I'm going to put the 5th and I'm going to click save. So I can back enter her point card data. I can go to data entry now and I can see, whoops, I want to go to May 8th. And I can see, can I see Kidders? Where is she? There she is. I could enter points for Kidders right here. Okay. I could actually go back a few days because remember I said I put her on the 5th. So she actually, does she show up? No, maybe I didn't save her for the 5th. But I could, if I had put, oh no, there she is. I can go back a few days and enter points from the previous days. Okay. If I know a student's going to be enrolled next Monday, I can't enroll them until next Monday. I can't enter in the future. I can't do anything. I can't enroll them in the future. So sometimes that happens. Maybe you want to be sure that someone can get points in there on Monday. So you might enroll them on Friday. You can go back to your dashboard later and you can change that enrollment date to the real date when they started. So you don't have a question mark on their graph. Okay. Not a big deal if you just have a question mark. They missed one day of data. Well, they didn't really, but okay. All right, let me go back to my dashboard, just make sure. Notice how I can get a little snapshot of the student. Do they have an IEP? Are they in CICO-SWIS? Do they have a 504? How many days have they been in check-in, check-out? When were they enrolled? Things of that nature. I can see success over the last 4 weeks. How well are they doing? I could go in and change somebody's goal. Kaysen's goal is now going to be 80%. I can click save. We might decide that Coco Catul, this was my dog when I was little, my little poodle. Coco is, we're actually going to unenroll Coco. Coco's not going to be participating in check-in, check-out anymore. So I'm just going to click on Coco's name, click unenroll. And I'm going to put the real date when they stopped being enrolled, which was back on Monday. So again, we don't have data that looks like they were supposed to have collected points and they didn't. They stopped collecting points on this. This was their unenrollment date. Okay. If I wanted to see my unenrolled students, I could click my little unenrolled button and notice they're grayed out. The students that are unenrolled, I can see them as they're a little bit gray. Where's Coco? I don't know where Coco went. Maybe not showing up quite yet. But if I wanted to, I probably didn't click save or something. If I wanted to re-enroll a student, we unenrolled that, Brad, but now I want to re-enroll them. I just go to my unenrolled tab, click on Brad's name, click re-enroll. We're re-enrolling them as of today. We're going to go ahead and give a little bit lower, and then we go save. Now when I click enrolled, Brad's going to show up. Okay. Making sense? All right. let's go. Let's log out. Do people feel like they want to practice some data entry? Are you feeling fist of 5? I feel okay about data entry. I don't need to practice is 5. Fist is no, give me a minute. I want to practice. Okay, I'm seeing 5s. It's okay if you have 4s or 3s too. That's okay. Okay, moving on from data entry then. Here we go. I'm going to log out of this account because I want to show you reports in the actual we went over reports, but you didn't get to play around with them in the actual account. So I'm going to log out. And now I'm still going to go back to demos here. But I'm not going to my facilitator training account. I'm just going to the demos, the Swiss Suite demos, which anybody can access. Okay, I go to Swiss Suite. We already have a bunch of data in here for you. So this is a good place to demonstrate how you look at reports because the data is already there. And I'm going to go to check-in, check-out. And notice these are all the students enrolled in the demo account. Here is that check-in, check-out school-wide graph, success for the last 4 weeks. I'm going to start with this very first graph. This is the order that I would run these reports. I can start down here on this whisker graph, or I could do it from up here. The way these are organized is the order in which I showed you how to drill down. Start school-wide, average daily points is a school-wide graph. So I'm starting big picture. Then I start going to my individual student period, student count, student period, and individual student single period report. So I'm going to start with school-wide. I'm just going to click on it down here to get started. Here is my school-wide report. Okay, remember we already talked about this. Here are some graph options. I can change the dates if I want to. And I'm starting with my school-wide report. I'm checking to see how many students, what's the range of students that were enrolled during this time frame. It looks like 16 was the lowest number and 24 was the highest. So we have 16 to 24 students participating on any given day. I might summarize a little bit more. How many days was our high score above 80%? How many days was it below 80%? Or I could even put the exact numbers. On this many days, we had the low scores below 40%. We had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days where the low score for our for any one of our students was below 40%. I'm also looking at that mean. Remember that mean? And I think it was, oops, I had to super glue my cup today, so I have to be careful not to touch where the super glue is. I'm looking at my mean. And I can see that my mean is actually pretty steady. If I put a line through here, the average for students is up above 70% pretty much every day. I could start counting those days. I could say, you know, this many days it was above 70%, this many days it was at the school-wide goal. But this generally is a steady, it's a pretty static mean, little bit of variability. But I'm okay. I might be okay. That might be different for you. In your context, you might be like, oh my gosh, our mean needs to be up at 80%. Maybe. But I'm not freaked out with our mean right now. I'm like, yeah, our system looks pretty healthy, looks pretty okay. Would you agree with that, or would you be more concerned than I am? It's okay if you are. Okay, Danielle gave me a thumbs up. We're moving on. All right. My next graph, remember, I'm just going in order. My school-wide graph is still sitting here. I'm going to go here and I'm just going down and I'm going my average daily points. I'm just going to leave the same dates in here because I'm comparing apples to apples. I want the same date range. And I'm going to click, I do want to show the values on the graph. Someone just emailed me yesterday and said, how do I show this graph at the staff meeting without student names? You can show the graphs without student names just by clicking here, but I'm going to show names. I also want to see the values on the graph. I'm going to click generate. All right. Remember what we're doing here. We're looking to see which of our students are not having a lot of success and have enough data points where we're concerned. And we're also possibly looking at the students that are doing well and also have enough data points where we might think about fading. Okay, so Alan Piltzer has 5 days of data and is at 76%. I'm just going to let Alan go. I'm going to say, yep, doing okay. Just started, check in, check out. Just not going to run reports for him. Just going to move on. David Anderson Jones has 21 days of data, 87% of points. And there's only 21 days available for points during this time frame. I may know that David actually has been enrolled 2 weeks prior. So he has quite a few data points. If I change the dates on this graph, I might jot his name down on my data summary sheet as the data analyst and say, we might want to think about fading supports for David Anderson Jones. I don't have to decide as the data analyst how we're going to fade those supports. I just need to give the summary of where he's having success, if there are any barriers, and do I make a recommendation for some kind of change. Okay. Brian Bender. Again, free Brian Bender, poor Brian. Brian is at 15 days of data. I actually know that maybe he's been enrolled way longer than that, and he's only earning 58% of his points. I am definitely going to write his name down, and I'm going to run some individual reports for him. Brian actually ends up being in our CICO-SWIS account because he needed individualized supports. Okay, so I'm choosing my students. Jamie Clausen, 2 days of data, 89%, doing great. Just you don't need to run reports for this kiddo. Okay. Vista 5, I feel confident that I could help teams determine which students to drill down. 5, it's okay if you're 4s, 3s, 0s. Okay, great. How are we doing?
Nothing in the chat, but
Great.
Most people are saying they're good.
Great. Okay, let's move on. Now I'm going to my next report. Notice how I can toggle between these two graphs because those are the ones I've run. I'm going to go to my second one. My third report, my student count report. I'm going to leave the dates the same. I might change them in a minute because I want to show you a couple things. But remember, I said Brian Bender. I'm concerned about Brian, so I'm going to start typing in Brian. There he is, Brian Bender, not Brian Olson. I want to show names, referrals, plan changes, and notes. I'm going to click generate because I want to know more about what's going on for Brian. Sure enough, he is struggling. All this red tells me that Brian is having a hard time. I also see right here that there's a little circle. That means somebody put some notes in. Might have been me. Oh no, we're not in the facilitator. I also see he's got 3 absences. And then there was no school here, but then I've got these no data. So someone intentionally put no data in there, and that means Brian was supposed to have turned in his point card, and there were either no points on it or he didn't turn it in at all. Okay, that's what that ND means. It gave him 0. You don't have to use that feature if you don't want to. Let's take a quick look though at what these notes are telling me. The way I get to the notes is I just go back to the graph where it was. I can look at the data table, but here are the notes. Somebody typed in, Brian had a bus issue on the way to school. He's angry. Okay, so that's the context in which Brian is starting his day. It might help me get a sense of, did this contribute to why maybe he didn't have a great day? Now, if Brian's not having a lot of great days, It may be, again, we can put all the notes in here in the world, but the reality is it's not enough of an intervention for him. He needs more intensive supports, but it's giving us a start. Okay. I'm going to change the dates. I'm hoping that if I change the dates far enough back, which you wouldn't normally, I just want to show you. There we go. So I went back because I want to show you those plan changes. Remember I said the purple lines tell me that there's plan changes. There's a bunch of notes. Those circles are telling me there's notes. There's some no school days. There's a day when we don't, bunch of days with question marks, not sure what happened. But I also see that he was getting quite a few referrals, not 40, not 20, but one referral here, one, two. Okay, so he's getting some referrals. And I can see that. How do I see what I can see the data table? I can look at plan changes. Those are the purple lines. What did we do? He referred to team for additional academic supports. We started new reading and math group, and there was a referral for tier 3 behavior and academic support. In my notes, I've got some missed breakfasts, absences have made it hard for him to catch up, and so on. Okay, let's look at the plan changes for a moment. So these are the plan changes. Let's go back to my graph. And when I look at this, does it appear that we had more success? Did Brian have more success after we implemented these plan changes? So here's when we did the plan change. Here's the points after. Looks like he had one good day, but our plan changes, it doesn't appear that we hit it, right? Those plan changes just didn't make the difference that we would have hoped. Okay. So yeah, I think the last one was we're going to refer him for tier 3 supports because he needs more individualized supports. It doesn't mean that Brian can't participate in check-in, check-out. It means that we have to layer more supports on, and we're going to provide some more individualized supports. He still might remain on check-in, check-out, but we're also going to have some individualized supports put in place, more intensive. Okay. All right. So now that is kind of big picture for Brian. This is his individual student count report. But now I want to know across his day, and I'm just going to go back to the regular periods that we already had. I want to do a student period report. I want to see across Brian's day, how's he doing? Oops, I have to choose Brian. There he is. I click generate. Now I can see where is he having a little more success? Where is he having the least amount of success? This is a kiddo where it's kind of, you pretty much have to run reports for every one of these periods if you wanted more information, but I'm just going to choose one period. He has 16 days, 17, 17, 16, 17, 16. There were 20 days possible. Remember, we had some absences. We had some days where he didn't turn in his card. We had some no data days. Now I get a sense that Brian is having problems across the day. Check in, check out doesn't seem to be working. I've checked fidelity, and it's not about the adults as much as it's about we need to provide him. It is about the adults in a sense because we need to provide him more supports. We're not giving him the supports he needs. Okay. So I'm going to now go to my last report and I'm going to pick a period where I want to know a little bit more. I'm going to just choose period 1 because maybe I heard from the period 1 teacher was like, oh, I don't know what to do with Brian. Or somebody said, wow, he's really struggling at the beginning of the day. We can see he's struggling across the day. But I'm going to go ahead and go to my last report and I'm going to run the student single period report. I'm going to put Brian Bender. I'm going to say period 1. I'm going to leave all this the same. I'm going to click generate and confirmed. We've got some absences. We have some no datas. Brian is struggling, but we know he's also struggling across the day. Oftentimes what you'll see is a student is doing well in several periods and not so well in maybe 1 or 2 periods, something like that. And so I can get a better sense of, oh, somebody brought me a treat. So, so again, that's just another way to think about, is Brian having a problem in one period, or is it really across his day? And remember, I'd use the as the data analyst, I would summarize this information in that data analyst report. Is he having some success? Where is he having barriers? What's his average? How many days of data? What do I recommend? A plan change or more intensive supports, whatever. Okay. All right. Danielle, am I forgetting anything on this part? I want to move us on.
I don't think so. I think you're crushing it, Nad. Any
Crushing it.
questions from the crowd?
Anything? Okay.
That's
So
a
that
fair
drill down
answer.
process, FISTA 5. I get it. I get how to run those reports and drill down to summarize student data. 5. Everybody else left, but that's okay. That's okay. They're like, we're so tired of hearing her talk. Normally I would give you more time to play around, but because of all the blips, I just want to get us, I don't want to keep you late. Okay. So not that I would. Okay. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint because I'm going to double check where we are in our process. We're not at wrap up quite yet. Hold on. We did database decision making. All right, I'm going to do just a little bit on readiness. Yep, that was our database. I'm going to do a little bit on check and check out SWIS readiness. Are you seeing my slides?
No,
No?
we're still seeing this.
That's what I thought.
This page.
That's what I thought. Okay. All right. Now hopefully you're seeing my slides. So readiness. Not going to lie. These readiness requirements are changing. Readiness is going to look a lot different in the coming, like the next school year. We're really starting to break this down into what do you really, really need to start a check in, check out SWIS or a SWIS account. And you need the internet and you need to be able to pay for the account. That's really what you need. Now, for really good, solid implementation, you do need all these things. These readiness requirements, you do need all these things. But what we're telling you now, don't stop a school. We used to be like, unless these are met, don't let a school, don't do a license agreement, don't let them start. We're not saying that anymore. Get folks started. I'm going to start my new drink. Oh, it's even got real strawberries in it. And these are all good guidelines. When the new readiness requirements come out, you'll see some of these in that readiness journey. But we're just being a little less strict about it because we just want people to get started. Okay. So building administrator, yeah, we know that initiatives will fail if we don't have an administrator on board. We need a team. We need the team to be looking at the data regularly. We need a point card that actually meets these readiness requirements. And I'm going to show you some examples. It has to be standard for all students, defined number of periods. We say up to 10, but you could have more. Defined number of expectations, remember 3 to 5 and a 3-point rating scale. And that rating scale needs to be 0, 1, 2. Okay, because that's what's available in check and check out SWIS. That might be hard for people. Like I never want to give a kid a 0. The reality is a 0 is not, I'm a failure. It's about teaching kiddos, you had a tough day or you had it, this was rough for you today. Let's talk about this. What are we going to do differently tomorrow? Kids can be really resilient and it really has to do with how we present this information to them and talk to them about having a rough day versus like, wow, you really sucked today. Like, oh my gosh. So 0, 1, 2. If you try to have something different on your card and then try to have your data entry person translate, try to, oh, okay, a 1 is actually a 0. So I'm going to put a 0 in the system. It's a mess. It's just a hot mess. My friend Jen Rolandhagen from Michigan would say, absolutely don't do that. Use the 0, 1, 2. Okay. You want to have a description of your system. You want to be sure that someone has time to enter the data. You want people that are you going to train. And what's really cool now is that we've given you that online Swift at Check and Check Out Swiss that you all did for your pre-training activities. You get to use that with your teams to train them. And there's a variety of ways you can use that. And then this is less maintaining the technology. That's not a big deal. And we want them to have an ongoing relationship with you. It's not Tinder, it's more eHarmony. Have a long-term relationship with your schools so you can keep supporting them. And then hopefully they're going to maintain readiness and the compatibility. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this. This is just a description of those different roles, who might fulfill those roles, what they're going to be doing. Those are the 3 roles we have for Check and Check Out Swiss. Kind of talked through these all the way. I want to talk mostly about the point card, okay? The point card has to be standardized. So not everybody can have a completely different point card. For this school, for example, the acronym is SOAR, S-O-A-R. So Safety, Organization, Achievement, Respect. They organize their periods by blocks. They have a 0, 1, 2 scale. This meets readiness. It's standard 3 to 5 expectations, 3 point rating scale, no more than 10 check-in periods or 1, 2, 3, 4. Thumbs up, this meets readiness. Okay, here's another one. This is the Hawk report, helping a winning kid. Be safe, be respectful, be responsible. Awesome, it's 3 expectations. They have a 0, 1, 2 rating scale. This I'm a little bit concerned about. I'm not sure if this is going to work for sure. So that's the only reason I have a question mark. Will this schedule work for everybody? It might be in Check and Check Out Swiss, you just put period 1, period 2, period 3, period 4, but on the student's card, you do this. It's just a question. It might be just fine. But it's something to check in with the team about. You could have 8:30 to 10 recess on the card. You could have all this on the and still write in period 1, period 2, period 3, period. However you want to do it. But just making sure that however they set up that point card, it'll work for everybody. Okay? I'll give you, this doesn't work. It's got a 4-point rating scale. I don't know what's going on with these periods here. And it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 expectations. That's okay. But I'm not clear that pencil sharpened is a school-wide expectation, right? Pencil sharpened is probably the school-wide expectation might be responsible, but these are not school-wide expectations, okay? So I wouldn't, this is not going to easily be entered into Check and Check Out Swiss. In fact, it really can't be. So this is a card you'd want to work with the team, say, let's come up with a card that actually would work. Here's one, doesn't have the points, but it does, well, it kind of has the points. So this is for little kids. Hello, update, goodbye is the, it's hug acronym, and a smiley's 2, 1, 0. Notice here, be safe, be kind, be responsible. For this student need a little more targeted about what being safe meant. So for this student, we put in keep hands, feet, and objects to self. Okay, because that's more targeted for being safe. We wanted that student to really work on that. Those could change for that student. These might just be written in daily for a student. But that's how you can kind of tweak or individualize the card just a little bit. Okay, it's just adding in more specific goals. If they're older students, they can actually write those in themselves. Okay, but you've still got the school-wide expectations. The schedule might work, might be fine on the card. It might look different in Check and Check Out Swiss, and your data entry person would know period 1, period 2, period 3, period 4, period 5. Okay. I'm not going to do that one. This is more of a, there's 2 interventions on here. Students are writing their own schedule in here. And this breaks are better. This information, it's a different intervention, would not be entered into check and check out SWIS. It might be entered into an Excel spreadsheet or someplace else, but you could have both of these interventions on here. Just knowing that you might have two different data entry people, or just knowing this part is not going into check and check out SWIS. You can't put it in there. Okay. This is a high school. Anybody high school? High schools, you know how they have A-B days? Oh, okay, Mary. So sometimes you need to set up, you need to do A-B days, or, today, period 1, sometimes it's period 1, sometimes it's period 5, sometimes it's period 2. So you would just have a card like this. That would have all periods 1 through 8, and the data entry you'd leave blank. For a day when it's just period 1, there is no period 5, you'd leave period 5 blank when you're entering the data. Sometimes these are A-B days, and you just have the kiddo circle which period am I actually collecting points for today. Okay. Feedback provided, you can't put that into check and check out SWIS unless you wanted to put a note, but this card actually meets readiness requirements for our mobile app. Okay, all right, licensing, whole video on licensing. You do after a school meets readiness, or as they're meeting readiness, there is this license agreement that you need to fill out. I would also say, readiness requirement number 4, it's really important to have some kind of description of your check in, check out intervention program, because let's say Danielle wins the lottery and she's been running our check in, check out forever, and nobody else really even knows how to do it or what it, hopefully people know what it's about, but she has the most knowledge about it. You want to be sure it's documented so someone can step into Danielle's role and be the check-in, check-out coordinator. So, or run check-in, check-out. So having a description of what's the program, what are the responsibilities for the coordinator, how do we identify students? Is it parent nomination and number of office discipline referrals? How do we tell teachers to nominate students? What are the criteria? And do we have any training materials for our folks? These are just kind of headers for that description. What's the purpose? How do we select them? And so on. Examples in your slides for what a check and check out description might look like. Talked about that. Here's that licensing part. This link on this slide walks you through licensing. You do need to turn in a license in order for your school to start accessing account. That's our indication that you're saying, yep, this school's ready to start. So if you watch this video, it should walk you through that pretty easily. You may have seen it in your pre-training activities. I'm not sure. It's a piece of paper that you fill out. If you fill it out incorrectly, don't worry. We're going to let you know that. We do want you to be the last person that touches that license agreement, because you will know how to fill it out more accurately. You don't have to use electronic signatures. So first you're going to fill out this whole top part, what all the information about the school, what their grade range is, who's going to pay for it, who's the administrator. This part is more about about SWIS. It's about this optional data sharing agreement, but we might like to have it for check and check out SWIS as well. This allows us to take the data that's going into our applications, and we can then use that data anonymously. So it's stripped of all identifying information for our research. So we hope that your administrator will sign this. This is usually where the administrator signs. We hope that you'll sign this. If you don't, we might get in touch with you and say, hey, did you explain that, it's not that we're going to use the research with student staff names. So hopefully they would sign that, your administrator would sign that. This bottom part is you signing your name, your email, and then your signature. Okay, doesn't have to be electronic. Can be, but doesn't have to be. and you only submit, there's 9 pages to this. We just need 1. We just need page 6. Okay. This is talked more about on the in the video, but I also want to tell you that this bundling, when you bundle, bundle save, anybody see that commercial? When you bundle and save, if you get Swiss at the beginning of the year, it's going to be $400 to get Swiss. Then you want to add check-in, checkout Swiss later in the year. You're going to get a prorated it's going to be less than $400. Next year, year 2, you're renewing, and the Swiss and check-in, checkout Swiss will be on one invoice. Then you're going to get an even better price break of $675. Okay. So that's bundling. It has to be on the same invoice. So if you start at different times, you're still going to get a prorated amount depending on when you start which program, but that's how that works. More on the video. All right. We are almost finished, folks. Who do you want to have as your users for check-in, checkout Swiss? You're going to want to negotiate. Who is your data geek? And I mean that with love in my heart. Who's somebody that would be interested in analyzing the reports and has the time to analyze the reports and do those data summaries? Who is going to be the data entry person who has time to do the data entry? Who's going to be the admin? Is it going to be your administrator or is it your team lead? Who's going to do that? You can have more than one person for each role. That's okay. But you don't want to, it's not ready for you to give access to the entire school. It's just not. It's not like Swiss. Okay. Not So who has the knowledge capacity to fulfill these different roles? It's always nice if someone's willing to do it for at least a year. It's kind of nice if they're willing to do that. Swift at check-in, checkout Swiss. As I said before, Swift at check-in, checkout Swiss. You all completed Swift at check-in, checkout Swiss. That was that module you did for the pre-training. You can use that module to train the users at your school. You could ask them to do it a few days before you bring everyone together to talk to do it, and then go through it together, get questions. You could just go through Swift at check-in, checkout Swiss training with everyone in the room doing, section by section. It's up to you how you use this. You also have access to all these slides that we used. You can incorporate slides to supplement your the online modules. So a variety of different ways you can do that. This is the kind of the outline for the self-guided. There are, you also can decide, not everybody needs to know everything. So my data analyst doesn't really need to know about data entry. So I'm going to hold maybe a separate training. We're just going to do the data analyst sections for my 1 to 3 data analysts. I might use the slides that Nat and Danielle have used to do an introduction to my whole school. And so on. So lots of different ways. You can use both the demo account and your facilitator training account. You can give people that that password so people can practice data entry. But when you're doing data entry or account settings, school settings, use the facilitator training account. They can log in with your username and password. And then when you're demonstrating reports and database decision making, use just the plain demo account. Lots of resources available to you on this resources tab. If you go to the home page, you'll see that resources tab, and you can click on check-in, checkout Swiss, and you can see a bunch of resources around how you train folks. There's also a video section that you could click on videos, click check-in, checkout, and you can see a bunch of videos that we have. All right. It's 1:16. What questions can I answer for you? This is also staying in touch, getting support. Danielle gave you a little bit of this already. Questions?
Our groups dwindled down.
Yep.
Folks have dropped off. They're going to watch the recording.
Mhm.
So, Laura, Becca, Mary, what can we do to help?
I do have one question actually. This is Laura.
Hi, Laura.
Hi, I am curious. So, and I'm sure you already said this, but that was a lot of information. And
Yes, it
so
was.
so currently how we're doing this is it's kind of makeshift, right? We've got different spreadsheets for different students that kind of outline, and we have got the check boxes, and we're checking whether or not, every hour they are meeting their goals and whatnot. And so my question is, so we have our teachers fill those out every hour, right? And then the person who, our at-risk coordinator, who actually does the check in and out, then he kind of goes over it with the student. And
Mhm.
so in in the Swiss platform, would that, in terms of reporting the data, would that be the at-risk coordinator who takes said spreadsheet or said, card, like you had said, and imports the data from the day, or are the teachers going in? And can we eliminate that spreadsheet step? I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, what I would say is use cards maybe instead of a spreadsheet, but no, you wouldn't have the teachers be entering the data directly in.
Sure. Okay.
If the spreadsheet is kind of like the card and that's
Mhm.
indicating what the points are, then yes, those the spreadsheet would go to that at-risk coordinator, and yes, then the data would be entered per student into check-in, check-out Swiss. That's what we have available right now.
Okay.
Swiss Mobile will allow teachers to actually enter at that moment when they're giving the points to the student to enter the data. We just don't have check-in, check-out Swiss Mobile ready. Does that
Okay.
help?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. And we actually, I know of middle schools in Springfield, Oregon, that actually the teachers do enter the data into a spreadsheet.
Mhm.
But what you don't want to lose, and then the whoever enters the data into check in, check out Swiss accesses the spreadsheets.
Mhm.
What you don't want to lose is the conversation.
Sure.
What you don't want to, yeah, I mean, this is about building relationships with students. So you just want to be sure the conversation between the student and the teacher is still happening.
Yeah,
It's not just that
absolutely.
the teacher's like, oh, I'm just going to enter the point. See ya.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Good question. Anybody else?
I'm sure it's probably in an upcoming slide, but when I did the Swiss Facilitator, I feel like I had to email someone to say, hey, I did this. Can I have access? Is that the same with check in, check out?
No, I will give your name to
Okay.
the folks here and I will say they are ready for certification. So
Okay.
you don't need to worry about that. I will make sure that in the next week or two you are certified. The thing that I will send you though, hopefully you filled out that facilitator information form that I sent you all that link before. I need that filled out even if you're already a Swiss facilitator. And then I'm going to send you a link for an evaluation, which it's okay if you're probably going to evaluate like, wow, the technology really stunk. That's okay. It's good feedback
You can,
for,
you can take it.
we can take it.
Happens to all of us with
Ah,
every piece of technology we touch. So we cannot fault you for that.
okay, well, yeah, so I will get that information out to you at the same time that I send the recording to you all. And tomorrow's optional. So I'm going to send out an email to pretty much everyone that was even here for part of the time. I have a couple of people that I'm going to be meeting with individually later because they couldn't get here today. But so there'll be an email going out kind of explaining next steps. That's it. That's all I got.
You did it. Great job, everybody.
We did it. Woohoo!